Okay, good morning. I will call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. Approval of the agenda. I have one addition, just 15.4, an additional personnel item for in camera. Any other additions to the agenda before we approve it? Any other additions, Council? Okay, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Moved by Councillor Marrow, seconded by Councillor Jenkins. All those in favor? I'll approve it. Then we have, in terms of adoption of the minutes, we have a regular council meeting on April 28th. Those minutes, any revisions, additions? You may note that there's a bit of a shift in the approach to the minutes here, and that previous iterations of the minutes had more narrative in them. I think we were having a challenging time determining, in terms of the narrative that was included in those minutes, what was the appropriate level of detail to include. And so you'll see that there's a bit of a shift in approach here with these minutes to be more form and function, but for accessibility and for the purpose of visibility or transparency. The minutes also have the link to the YouTube video attached at the start of them, as well as a timestamp hyperlink in each of the respective business items, so that members of council and members of the community, if they'd like to understand or hear or have an account of the entirety of the discussion that occurred, they can navigate to the video and see the entirety of the discussion that took place as archived on the YouTube video recording of the meeting. But having said that, are there anything on before we adopt these minutes? Oh, okay, I will look for a motion to adopt them as circulated. Moved by Councillor Jenkins, seconded by Councillor Carver. All those in favor? Call them adopted. Okay, that brings us to public comments. Of course, this is an opportunity for members of the public to state their concerns or opportunities or anything that they'd like to present to council in a public forum. If you'd like to address council this morning, please approach any one of the 5 microphones up here. You can be seated or you can stand. You want to hit the gray button at the base of the microphone. A red light will come on. A red light will come on here as well. Please state your name and the community in which you reside. Address your comments to me as the mayor, as the chair of this meeting. When you're done speaking, hit the gray button. The light will turn off. Be aware that this is live streamed on Facebook and the municipality's YouTube channel. And so even if you're not at the microphone as well, when the microphone is on, you can often be heard and captured by the microphone, and then you're part of the recording. So just be aware this is a public meeting. If you would like to speak, please come forward at this time. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes as well. Yeah, come on up, Dinesh.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Dinesh McDonnell. I'm here representing myself and my husband Keith McDonnell. We reside here in Liverpool. Since October 2025, we've been asking this municipality to address serious concerns related to the development at 307 Main Street, and now regarding the development application and process. And for 6 months, we were asked to trust due process, and we did. We have participated respectfully. We've provided information. We've met with administration, and we've sent much communication describing the issues surrounding and underlying this development. We have made every effort to resolve this constructively and without conflict. And at the last council meeting, the burden was placed on us to demonstrate why the approval of the development at 307 Main Street was unjustified. And we demonstrated that. We demonstrated that there were known outstanding issues affecting the application, that the foundational requirements for site application plans were not properly considered, and that staff themselves acknowledged gaps in their understanding and application of the process, and yet the approval remained. This council's role is not just to govern, but to govern effectively. Efficiency, accountability, and sound decision-making are part of your leadership. Sorry, do you want me to pause so that... Come to me. There we go. All right, no worries, no worries. And so the approval remains. And so council's role here is not just to govern, but to govern effectively. Efficiency, accountability, and sound decision-making are all part of that responsibility. And so when a process is clearly flawed, leadership is not shown through delay and further delay and further delay. Leadership is shown through action. And if the process was not followed, then the approval should not stand. What is difficult in this situation is that the burden of these continued delays fall almost entirely onto us, despite the fact that we were the only parties in this process who did not create the problem or didn't act unlawfully. We didn't put the property into violation. We did not establish that a use that was not compliant. We did not submit a flawed application. We did not approve a process that was not flawed. Yet we continue to carry the financial, emotional, and personal cost of the situation that has been created by others, the region, the administration, and the owners of 307. And so, Mr. Mayor, throughout this process, you were rigorous in reminding us that this appeal must only focus on the decision of the development officer. And we respected that direction, and we presented our case accordingly. And based on that decision alone, the evidence is clear. The process was not properly followed. The foundational requirements were not adequately considered, and those facts are directly relevant to the development officer's decision, and they provide sufficient grounds for council to overturn that approval today. Mr. Mayor, when you asked me in November to be patient and to allow for due process, I took you at your word. I was patient, I cooperated, I communicated respectfully and consistently. And yet now, when the evidence has been placed squarely before council and the facts clearly show that the process wasn't followed, and in some cases not even properly understood, there is still a reluctance by this council to act. The fact that this council did not overturn this approval 2 weeks ago when the evidence was already before you is deeply concerning. The fact that council now intends to defer this matter again is frustrating. We want to be able to move forward with our lives, and we want to have our time back, and we want this situation in our lives to continue peacefully. Council's inability to make a clear and necessary decision continues to consume that time. But more than that, it consumes public resources and municipal attention unnecessarily. It is wasteful and it's avoidable. And so today, we are here yet again asking council to be prudent and to follow their own laws, overturn the flawed approval, and then I would ask you to refer the broader process concerns for internal review through the Planning Advisory Committee. But do not continue to deny us the timely and fair outcome that this process already supports. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to address council this morning?
Test. Sorry, I had to check it first. Good day, Mayor, council members. My name is Paul DeVoe, and I live in District 5 with rental properties in District 3. I'm here today to address the recent increases this council has placed on the people in this community, at a time when many are already struggling through an affordability crisis. This council frequently promotes its commitment to transparency and accountability, yet it continues to provide information to the public that is incomplete or misleading. For example, on April 29th, the Region of Queens Municipality published a headline stating that there is no increase to the property tax rate this year for Queens County. That statement is incorrect. While the webpage does contain some of the accurate details further down, the way the information is presented is incomplete and misleads the general public. For Districts 1 to 12, there is an increase from 1.06 to 1.07, while District 13 went from 1.885 to 1.915 for residential resorts. This is on top of the 2.6% increase to the property cap rate. Yes, I'm aware that the municipality has no input in regards to the cap increase, but it is the municipality that gets the money from that increase. I could list several ways this council could have reduced the base rate to offset the J-Class road increase and the fire hydrant rate, but let's be direct. As the deputy mayor stated herself, the council pay increase alone amounted to 1.2 cents. If council had chosen to forego or even delay that raise until the next election, Districts 1 to 12 would be facing no increase at all this year, and District 13 would be seeing a smaller one. Yes, I understand that expenses are divided into different budget lines, but every dollar still comes from the same taxpayers. And that reality is this, that 1 cent increase is effectively going straight into the pockets of the 8 people sitting in this room. While I could spend plenty of time dissecting this year's budget, I'm here to talk about the consequences, specifically the consequences that this council's decisions have on me personally. For nearly 50 years, my life has been rooted in Queens County, through my own experiences and through my family's. When I retired, I chose to become a landlord. I made a deliberate decision that my role here would strengthen this community, not drain it. I committed to operate in a way that reflects the values of the people who call this place home. That commitment was not made lightly, and while the personal reasons behind this are not germane, or better yet, relevant, the promise itself is. It guides every choice I make. To keep that promise, I put 3 core policies in place. The first is simple but important. My rental rates are set at least 30% below market value. I don't do this solely for the benefit of the tenants who rent from me. I do it for the benefit of the entire community. Housing organizations and Statistics Canada consistently show that every dollar invested in affordable housing generates $2 to $3 in economic value for the surrounding area. Right now, my rates sit more than $30,000 below market levels. That difference isn't theoretical, it's real economic value staying here in Queens County. Yes, I could charge full market rates and earn personally more, but I also know that nearly $20,000 of that increase would go straight to federal and provincial taxes, and I would rather take less for myself and ensure that the greater benefit stays where it belongs, in this community. With both the water rate increase and the property tax increase, my operating costs will rise by roughly $1,200 this year. That's on top of an already $8,100 I do pay. So the obvious question becomes, where do I recover that cost? Do I take a page out of this council's playbook and take from those who need it the most? Many people assume the answer is simple. He will just raise the rent. But that brings me to my second policy. I do not raise rental rates. 2 of my tenants have lived in my units for nearly 8 years without a single increase. And if they stay another 10 or 20 years, that will not change. Tenants deserve the same stability and continuity that I have as a mortgage holder. If my payments remain predictable, theirs should too. That consistency isn't just fair, it's foundational to a healthy, stable community. And certainly an extra $30 or $40 a month means more to them than it does to me. And that brings me to my third and final policy I follow, one that very few people know about, including my own family. This may explain why I'm so frustrated. With the exception of maintaining a basic fund for repairs, I donate all of my rental profits back into this community. So when my costs rise, like the additional $1,200 this year, that money does not come out of my pocket. It comes out of the pockets of the people and organizations I support. Take last year, for example. I participated in McPherson's turkey drop because they match every donation. I contributed 50 turkeys, and with their match, that meant 100 turkeys went to the food bank, just over $1,200 worth. So now I'm forced to ask myself, do I skip donating this year? And when the Cranmer Cruiser events come around where I matched the monetary donations last year, do I pull back from there too? Do I stop attending fundraisers at the fire halls, community centers, or museums? These increases don't just affect me, they directly reduce what I can give back to the very community I'm trying to support. On the personal side, I'm facing an additional $500 in cost. Combined with the increases to my rental expenses, that's nearly $2,000 more this year alone. If that money were going towards something that generally benefited the community, I could accept it.
Mr. Duval, just note that you're at your 5 minutes.
All right, thank you. But watching it disappear into the poorly managed water utility and into the pockets of 8 individuals who believe they deserve more from the people who are already struggling, that is something I cannot stay silent about. In the end, as a retired veteran living on disability pension, I do not have the option of simply working more hours to cover these increases. I have to do what many people in this community would be forced to do, cut expenses wherever I can. Unfortunately, those cuts don't just affect me, they ripple outward and hurt the community as well. The only place I can cut from is local businesses I try to support. That one change alone could Every day after the gym, I used to treat myself to a specialty coffee at Main and Mersey. It was something I generally enjoyed, but I had to eliminate a small luxury. One small change alone means Main and Mersey loses roughly $150
Mr.
to
Duval, you're now at
$200
6
a month.
minutes. Please conclude your remarks.
All right, then I will conclude, and I'll save this for another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duval. Is there anybody else from the from public who would like to address council this morning? Come on up.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, council, and community members. My name is Lori Smythe, and I reside in Western Head, Queens County. I'm also the manager at the Astor Theatre. Today, we wanted to let you know about the Astor Academy programming that we have for youth in our community. Out of all the amazing things that we do for our community at the Astor Theatre, I think that working with youth certainly has my heart. Throughout the year, we have 3 youth programming for children aged 7 to 17, our Stop Motion Animation Club, our Filmmaking Club, and our Spotlight Guild. The mission of these clubs is to have youth learn and engage about the arts, that they develop a lifelong love that they can carry with them into adulthood. It is more important than ever for the Astor Theatre to invest in arts programming for our youth. In a world where arts are being defunded and technology is taking artistic spaces, now is the time that we need to keep the arts alive in our community. What we ask from our community today is that you show support to our youth doing in their artistic activities. We have 2 events coming up that we'd like to invite the community to. Our Astor Academy Film Festival on May 22nd at 7 p.m. And youth have been working really hard on creating their original films, and they would like to present them to you. Also, 2 of our club members, I'm very happy to announce, have also been selected as finalists for the Atlantic Youth Film Competition. So congratulations to Easton Goodwin and Gregory Fisher. So yeah, it's a free event, and we'd like you to come out and watch the films that the youth in our community are making. We also have a performance that we've already started play practices for. It's called The Pirate's Tempest, and that will be performed at the Astor Theatre on June 28th as the ending of the Privateer Days Festival. We are also really excited to announce that we have 5 affordable youth camps happening this summer. Our camps range from 7 to 17 years old, with each camp focusing on either musical theater, screenwriting and drama, radio, or film. With these camps, we have something for everyone. We are excited to welcome back Andrew Morrissey, who works on Broadway in New York City and brings the true Broadway experience to campers right here in Liverpool. We're also very, very excited to announce that Lincoln English, who spent years in theater camps growing up as a kid and has developed his own way of doing theater camps here at the Astor Theatre, is running not 1, but 2 camps for us. His Curtain Call Academy, and now for a new generation, Curtain Call Academy Junior. We are also super excited that Easton Goodwin is returning with his film camp. He's going to teach youth how to make a movie from script to screen, and in 1 week, the children will learn how to make a film, and it will be played at the Astor Theatre big screen. And last but not least, we are excited to announce a brand new camp that we have this year, which is our radio theater camp. Campers will learn to create audio-driven dramas with a focus on voice acting, sound effects, script writing, and audio editing. Our camps launched last week. They're already starting to fill up. And we just would like the community to know what's going on and where their children can access arts programming. So in summary, oh, and one more thing. Sorry. I'm also really excited to announce that although we try and keep all of our camps affordable, we have also secured a grant from the Bank of Montreal, which would allow youth to participate even if finances might be a barrier for them. So in summary, I just want to ask council, the mayor, and our community to support what our youth are doing at the Astor Theatre and their love of the arts. Thank you so much for your time, and we hope that we see you at the Astor Theatre soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Lori. Oh, before you go, you said May 27th is the Astor Academy Film Fest.
May 22nd
May 22nd.
at 7 o'clock.
At 7?
It's a Friday.
Okay.
And then Sunday, June 28th is our Pirates Tempest.
Okay, great.
performance.
And all of those, all that programming and camps, people can find out about that just by going to the Astor's website?
It's on our Astor Theatre website, it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, and you can certainly always call our box office if you have any questions.
Okay, well, great work, and congratulations on the grant program. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing. If you happen to know anybody in the community, a youth that's looking to get involved in the arts, please let them know what the Astor Academy is doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any other members of the community who would like to address council this morning? I'll call again. Any other comments from the community? And one more time, any other comments? Okay. Thanks very much for everybody who contributed this morning. Okay, that brings us to unfinished business. So we have one piece of unfinished business, and it was a tabled item stemming from the site plan appeal hearing that we heard at the at a hearing which took place on April 28th. So the motion was tabled. So a couple options here under unfinished business. There was a motion with regard to the site plan appeal that was laid on the table at our meeting on the 28th. This motion will expire at the end of today's meeting if no action is taken. So a couple of options. If it's the will of council to take the motion from the table, the motion's not debatable. But we can deal with it today. Another option is we can move for a motion to postpone consideration of this motion for a regular meeting to occur in the future. Staff advised that they would have a more wholesome, better able to provide us information on the nature of better able to provide us information that we didn't have available to us on the April 28th at the regular meeting in June 9th, but it is the will of council whether we want to make a decision on the site plan appeal today to either uphold or overturn the motion. The motion that was tabled, if I'm correct, the motion that was tabled on April 28th was to overturn the decision of the development officer, which would agree with the appellant that the decision should be overturned. So we could deal with that today. We can either we can look at that, or I can accept a motion to postpone, and then a decision to be made on June 9th. It's the will of council. What do you want to do with this one? Go ahead.
It is, unfortunately, this has been dragging on a long time, and it's taken too much time away from council, as well as the public and whatnot. I think I would like to see us deal with it today and learn from any mistakes that have arisen from this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Go ahead.
Just to jog my memory, when we made the motion to table, was there an inclusion to come back with more information from legal Is that why we tabled it?
Yes, that's right.
So we don't have that information yet?
No.
It was my recollection as well, because of the way that the land use bylaw was being interpreted and the way that it was read, council was trying to get an understanding if the development permit criteria came before or after. And so that was the advice that we were looking to get. And so I sympathize with both the appellant and the applicant that this should be dealt with in a timely manner. The whole reason why we tabled it was to get that information. And without that information, it's hard to understand, from my view. Thank you.
I'll give you a motion. I move that consideration of this matter be postponed to regular meeting on June 9th, 2026.
Just procedurally, does the first motion have to be taken from the table? Okay, that's what I thought. So, Mr. Mayor, do you want to
Yeah,
hop
okay.
in there?
Sorry, so procedurally, the motion needs to be taken from the table?
It can't be tabled. I mean, we've tabled this motion. And now I've put a motion forward that we postpone the matter basically until we get that legal advice to the regular meeting. So doesn't it still stay on the table?
Can you provide us with some clarity here, Madam Clerk? So, in terms of procedurally, so the intent, as I'm hearing it from Councillor Wenzel, is to postpone this matter to June 9th. So procedurally, how do we navigate this?
You'll need to lift the motion from the table and then make the motion to postpone to June 9th. Yes.
Okay. As a separate motion?
Yes.
I'll move that the motion regarding the site plan appeal be taken from the table.
It's okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Charlton and seconded by Councillor Wenzel. And is there a vote to remove from the table? Pardon me, this is, okay. It's not debatable. Okay. Okay, so, all those in favor of taking the motion from the table? Those against? Okay, one against, but the motion is on the floor. So is council, what I'm hearing is, so is council ready to proceed with the motion? Or would you like to move to postpone at this time, Councilor Wenzel?
So it's off the table. That's passed. So I'll reiterate my previous motion that consideration of this matter be postponed to the regular meeting on June 9th, 2026.
Is there a second to the motion to postpone? Seconded by Councilor Romero. So I will invite in debate on this one. Yeah? Okay. So go ahead, Councilor Romero.
I second the motion because I'd like to hear clarity from legal. I'd like to find out for further instances going forward, so I'd like to find that out. Thank you.
Others? Go ahead, Councilor Jenkins.
I think we can still find out the information from legal, but this has been going on for so long, and now from last meeting to the next time we deal with it will be 4 weeks. I think this is getting to be a little bit draggy and not fair to anyone involved.
Councilor Fancy?
I think from our last meeting, I had enough concerns that I don't really want to. I don't think this should have gone forward in the first place. And even getting legal representation to this, I think it can change things maybe for the future, but I think this process is, if anything, flawed.
I think the issue is that the information that come forward, the applicant met the criteria for the site plan approval. The part that got hung up, from my recollection, on looking for clarification was, do they need to meet all the criteria of the development permit before they meet the site plan approval criteria? And our director of planning said that that comes after. So, and that goes back to the way it reads versus the way it's being interpreted. So we need to get, and from my view, we need to get clarification on how that works so we move forward, because at the end of the day, they still met the criteria. They met the site plan approval criteria. I would remind council of when we discussed the site plan approval on Bristol Avenue when this council got first elected. There were several things that we were concerned about, but they were outside of the criteria, so we didn't have a reason to overturn that. And so from my recollection with this specifically is, does the development permit criteria get met before or after? That's where we're trying to figure it out. We need that clarified from our legal, because it's going to affect every single application that goes forward. If it doesn't matter if it comes before or after, then our concern about that specifically wouldn't be of this magnitude, from my view and based off the way that I understand it. I would also just add that there have been comments before about the Planning Advisory Committee weighing in on this. The way that our land use bylaw reads, the Planning Advisory Committee does not deal with site plan approvals. They only deal with development agreements, like rezones, not site plan approvals. So I just wanted to mention that for any council member that might not be familiar with that. But that's the point that's hung up on. So I guess at this point, question maybe perhaps to our CAO is, do we think we can get that information before June 9th? Because of course we have another meeting before now on June 9th. So that would be the one question I have at this point, because I recognize that it is frustrating how long this takes, but we need to understand how that is interpreted, because it's going to matter moving everything forward. And I guess from my view, if it were overturned on us saying that it should come before and it's not, then the applicant could put in another application and then put that same information forward. It will be back again, and it would be the same thing essentially. So I think we need a little bit of clarity from legal, but my question would be, do we think we could get it at our next meeting before the June 9th meeting?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm confident that we would have that information available to us. So between the May 26 or June 9 meeting, we would have the answer to that question, yes.
Deputy Mayor, can I hand you the chair so I can speak to this matter?
Sure can.
I mean, I have to agree with Councillor Jenkins in that the delays are problematic here, and to the appellant and to the applicant. This has dragged on, and agreeing to what the appellant who came today is that I feel like it is unfair delays for all parties involved that have been caused by our organization. So I know that the what we can do, we can only make a decision that the development officer could have made in the first place. In my reading of our land use bylaw, as highlighted in the appeal under site plan approval 5.6, 5.6.2, it reads, in addition to the requirements of section 5.4, applications for site plan approval shall meet the following requirements, and then list a number of things, including part 17. It's clear that in the past that the site plan approvals have moved forward without documenting the requirements under section 5.4. My reading of the language in our land use bylaw, I have to conclude that it would be reasonable for a development officer to deny the application based on that, based on the fact that it didn't include all this information. And so I think it's true that we do need clarity in terms of the legal interpretation, and we do need to make sure that our staff's application and interpretation of the land use bylaw is appropriate as we navigate these situations. But I also feel that given the obligation on the organization to be responsive and moving through these things in a timely manner, that there is a legitimate, you could legitimately argue that there's a reason why this site plan approval could be denied. And so I think that, and the appellant identified exactly this clause in appealing the approval. And that's not to say that the application couldn't move forward and satisfy all the requirements that are outlined in here. It's a procedural matter, though. It's a procedural matter of highlighting the incompleteness of this. And so for that reason, and to get timely resolution, my preference would be to vote no, to postpone, and to accept a motion to deal with this today, and overturn the decision of the development officer, I think.
Okay. Other comments on that note? Just a question I have, I guess, procedurally. If the will of council is to deal with this today and it were to be overturned, the applicant of 307 would then, I assume, and we get clarity from planning, but I assume would then be able to put a new application in, and based off the decision that council makes saying that we expect that the development permit criteria comes first, that would be included in the package that we would see at a future date. Is that fair to say? Yes.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's correct.
Okay. How do others feel knowing what you know now? Would appreciate other contributions here. Pretty please.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing you have all said, because I'd like to hear what legal has to say, but I agree that it's been going on too long, so we'll see what everyone else has to say. So,
Thank you, Councillor Carver. Councillor Jenkins, go ahead.
I've already made my point that this has been going on too long, and I will be voting against postponing this to another meeting.
Councillor Fancy?
Well, it's is what the mayor had said. Procedurally, 5.4.2 was supposed to be included into this, and procedurally we didn't. It wasn't. Now I could understand that maybe say, well, they don't think that maybe that had any effect, but still procedurally it does have an effect because it wasn't considered. So procedurally we're wrong, and that even seeing a lawyer doesn't change that procedure because the procedure just wasn't followed.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments? Go ahead.
I would just note that I don't know with definity that procedurally we're wrong, but that's not what I'm arguing. What I would state is that there is you could reasonably say that a development officer, we could reasonably overturn this based on the language of 5.6.2. I think that we should reserve our judgment about the proper or improper interpretation of the law until we get the legal advice.
Other comments? And so there currently is a motion on the floor that the consideration of this matter be postponed to the regular meeting on June 9th. Are there further comments on that before I call for the question? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion is carried. Did you vote? Sorry?
I abstain.
Okay, that's deemed as a negative, but no problem. Okay. Is there another motion that someone would like to put forward at this time?
Or I'll take the chair back.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I'll take it back, Deputy Mayor. Yep, so given that we postponed it, the original motion was taken off the table. Is there a motion to either approve or just look, the language. Just need to find the language. Yes, please. Yeah, if you could read the original motion, that would be helpful here, yeah.
So the original motion that you're voting on now is that Council for Region of Queens Municipality overturn the decision of the development officer to issue a site plan approval that will allow the creation of one dwelling unit in the rear of the existing building located on property identified as PID 70025-002.
But do we need to, someone would need to make that motion? Right. So is it the will of council to entertain that motion at this time? Moved by Councillor Jenkins. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Fancy. Debate or discussion? Go ahead.
So with this getting overturned, this is not us saying that this use is not allowed there, because we know that it is under a land use bylaw. This is us saying that we would like the development permit criteria to be included in the application that comes forward with the site plan approval criteria. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
Well, I want to clarify. I think what this is saying is that, what this motion is saying is that we want to overturn the current decision of the development officer without prejudice or bias for what happens next. I was going to say Councillor Thorpe, CAO Thorpe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So further to your point there, so that's correct. So council would be voting on this specific motion essentially in a vacuum as a standalone to overturn or not. And then if there's future direction from council with what you'd like to see, a secondary motion to that would be requested by staff.
Right. Thank you. Any further debate or discussion? I mean, I think that some of the substantive debate with respect to the motion to postpone is germane here, but does anybody else want to say anything before I call the question on this particular motion? Go ahead.
Just in regard to a secondary motion from council, I just, at this point, I feel like we are waiting for like legal interpretation. So I guess that would give the council more information to understand if we need to do anything beyond what we're doing right now. I personally don't feel like I would have a suggestion on a secondary motion until we get that clarity.
So, Mr. Mayor, I'm just referencing that we treat motions as individual pieces of business.
Yes.
So, so to alleviate any confusion that there's not any assumptions of
Right.
of action staff will take, so that we can treat motions all individually, and that way there's not any confusion about any expectation that council has of specific direction.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think what Deputy Mayor was clarifying there is that there's already some direction provided to staff with respect to digging into this matter and interpretation of it with a broader scope of understanding, but isn't germane or substantive to this specific motion or debate. Yeah. Any further comments, discussion, debate before I call the question? Okay, and I just want to be really clear because the language can be tricky here. A vote for yes would be to agree with the appealant and overturn the initial decision of the development officer to approve the site plan. A vote of no would be to uphold the decision of the development officer. Is that clear to everybody? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion? Those against? One abstention. Motion's carried. That concludes unfinished business. Where did my thing go? So on to staff reports. First item of business under staff reports is on the electric vehicle charging stations and an amendment agreement. Mr. Lane, will you provide us with an overview of 7.1, please?
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning.
So yes, in July of last year, Council entered into an agreement with Tesla Motors of Canada to lease an area of the parking lot at Queen's Place for the purpose of installing 8 supercharger stations. Within that agreement, they had 365 days of a due diligence period to go away and do the research on how much that was going to cost and whether it was feasible. They've come back and they would like to proceed and they would like to start construction this summer. But they have one request to an amendment to the agreement, which is to move the location of the site probably less than 100 meters, but it's just from one section of the parking lot to another. The reason for that is just that it makes it a great deal easier and cheaper to install because you're not having to trench across the parking lot. So hopefully in your packet there you have the original agreement with the site map of where the plan to install the stations was, and also the updated section, which is in Exhibit A. Yeah, so on the screen is the original location, and the amended location is just sort of to the south of that on that next section of parking lot. All of the other terms of the agreement remain exactly the same. So the remuneration to the region is the same, the length of the term and such like. It would just be that the location would be deleted from the original agreement and adopted from the updated one. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Lane, Council? Go ahead, Councillor Jenkins.
So, Mr. Lane, it looks to me like they're going to a smaller parking lot area. Will that smaller area handle the transformers and everything else that they need to install in place? Because I look at that big set that's on Main Street, and it looks like it takes up quite a bit of space. So I just want to make sure that they won't be expanding beyond that 7-space parking lot.
Thank you. Yes. So within the packet, there is also the Stantec drawing that I'll call your attention to. And within that, you'll see, Steve, I don't know if you can bring that up on the screen. It's page 30, I believe, or 31. There we are. So the outline in red there is the actual charging, the stations of the parking lot. And the transformer is actually off to the right-hand side there on an additional piece of land. I don't have my glasses with me either, unfortunately.
So kind of in the wooded area that's between the Ground Search and Rescue building and the Universally Designed Play Park.
That's correct,
right there.
Yes.
On the corner of it. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's my understanding the way that is currently, there are 2 access points into that parking lot on that lower end. Does this remove one of those access points?
No, it wouldn't. So there would be a new, there's an existing power pole, a utility pole, on the way into that. It would require a proposed new pole, which is shown on that diagram, but from there it would run underground across the parking lot, across that entrance. So no, there wouldn't be any change to the parking lot design itself.
Further to that, and I'm not sure it would be fair to ask you, Mr. Lane, but I'm wondering if you've had any conversations with like IT with an additional power pole going in there, with the opportunity to be able to have cameras, because we had previously discussed this in the previous term of council, and I think early in this term, just about the challenges that we have over there in being able to provide those, like actual cameras that would capture good footage there beyond the Queen's Place Americenter. So I'm just wondering with this coming in, if that does put us in a position to be able to move forward with doing that.
I believe it would. So the upgraded power supply would be available there for additional connection. As far as I know, I'm no expert on it.
Go ahead, Councillor Roy.
Mr. Lane, I'm not sure if you can answer this one or not. With the playground being right there, will this have any impact, like short-term, long-term?
I would say that the charging stations are reserved for charging use. So if anything, there would probably be less traffic into that section of the parking lot than there would be if they were regular parking stalls. So I think that would probably be my answer to that.
With the installation, like as that's happening, will they be closing off some of that area, or?
I'm not sure about that actually. I'm not sure what the actual installation plan would be and whether it would have an impact. Wherever it would be a short-term impact. It's not a huge install.
Any other questions from Mr. Lane on this report?
Would they be responsible for repairing the asphalt and anything they disturb within those areas?
Yes, absolutely.
I see that contained within the agreement and report, a lease generated revenue of $9,600 per annum. Is that kind of pretty standard when Tesla enters into agreements like this? Is that indexed, or what's the duration of that?
That would be the agreement as part of the overall term of the agreement. It's not indexed, no. It is a standard amount. That's what they have on their books as that's what they offer by way of lease.
Okay, and pardon me, what is the lease of the, what is the term of the agreement? $10 years? Okay. Okay.
Sorry, yes, just for the record, 10 years is the term
10 years.
of the lease.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Lane, what happens at the end if they decide to pull out? Who's responsible for cleanup?
It's in the lease that they're fully responsible for all removal and remediation of the site.
Do we actually have a legal way of ensuring that happens?
Other than the lease agreement, I'm not sure how else we would secure it, but yeah, it would be secured within the terms of the contract.
Council Fancy?
I didn't see it in here anywhere, but would there be any opportunities of us being able to use cameras off of because of their what they're doing to be able to use for our playgrounds and skate park?
So I believe that was the nature of Deputy Mayor Charlton's question, and Mr. Lane suggested that, so there will be electricity more available at that site. But beyond that, he's not a technical expert. Any further questions?
One last question. Will they have CCTV on that site, or is it not monitored?
I haven't heard any talk of CCTV coverage of it, so I believe that it's not planned at the moment.
So you mean for Tesla to actually have be monitoring their own infrastructure there, right? Okay.
I would just also draw council's attention in the implications section. There is comment that the area in question has historically been used, albeit on very infrequent occasion, for renters at Queen's Place to store storage trailers and such like, so that they can access equipment during large events at Queen's Place. And staff did point out that if this if this area of parking lot was going to be used for another purpose, we would have to find some safe way for renters to be able to access storage containers.
Right,
Just a point
because
of
that,
note.
because that portion of the parking lot is sort of in close proximity to the back entrance, sort of service entrance of the QPEC facility.
That's correct, albeit across the road.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the safest location anyway, but.
And there is that parking lot that's immediately on the backside. Yeah. Any further questions? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion? The suggested motion is that the Council Region of Queens Municipality approve the amended location for 8 electric vehicle charging stations and authorize the municipality to enter into the amended agreement with Tesla Motors Canada ULC. Moved by Councillor Carver. Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Romero. Further debate or discussion? Debate or discussion on this? Do we still have audio? Are we, yeah? Should have audio. Apologies for those following along at home. We're having an issue with our camera. Should be online momentarily. Hopefully you can still hear us. Any debate? I'll ask the question. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, yeah, I will call for a 10-minute recess if we could meet back at 10:07, please. And we'll get the, camera sorted. All right, folks, rolling again here. The next item of business is a fun one because it's a chance for us to recognize and celebrate some amazing volunteers in our community. Unfortunately, our communications officer is not available to speak to this today, so I'm going to ask Madam Clerk if you could please provide us with an overview of this report regarding the 2026 Representatives for Volunteers of the Year.
Of course, Mr. Mayor. So annually, Region of Queens Municipality selects 2 volunteers who have made an impact in Queens County through their volunteer work to receive the Provincial Volunteer Award in recognition of their outstanding contributions to the community. Current practice is to review the nominees received in Region of Queens Municipality's Ripple Effect program from the previous year and select from those nominees. This year, Trevor Monroe and Velta McManus were the 2 nominees. Council may choose to select the 2 candidates or choose another option. Staff recommends selecting the 2 candidates as both are truly representative of the community and have been nominated by members of the community in recognition of their volunteerism.
Thanks, Madam Clerk. Questions or comments? I'll just highlight so that and it's contained. Folks who are following along, check out Appendix A, where you can just see, or go to the Ripple Effect portion of our website. The types of contributions that these 2 individuals have made to our community are profound, very different, but profound, both of them. Trevor Monroe as the chief of the Liverpool Fire Department, and Velta is a broad range of contributions, and most recently is really doing wonders to advance the direction and the operation of the Astor Theatre Society, where she's on staff there now, but she's spent a lot of time contributing to the board there. Any other? Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to move that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality select Trevor Monroe and Velta McManus as Region of Queens Municipality's 2026 Representative Volunteers of the Year.
Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Roy. Anything further? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay. On to the Gorham Walkway Rehabilitation Update. Director Grant, can you provide us an overview of this item, please?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So we were here, or I guess I was here on March 24th and provided a brief report to council with some details on the project known as the Gorham Walkway. At that time, there led some confusion out of the staff reports. We're back again with hopefully clarity on the work that's proposed. So just as a reminder, the project seeks to replace the Gorham Walkway, which goes between Main Street and the waterfront, looking to achieve what we can of a barrier-free path of travel to address accessibility concerns. So we have prepared additional drawings which are shared. There's three sections for the work proposed. Steve, can you scroll down? There you go. So the first one, section AA, would be more at the bottom in that area parking lot behind Memories Cafe. Section BB would be a little bit further uphill in section CC, very near Main Street. So going to the first one, you'll see our attempt to kind of illustrate what it would look like. Steve? What it would look like for the pedestrians walking up that walkway with the retaining wall on the one side against the existing home hardware with some foliage, a shallow retaining structure, and then the existing brick wall that's there now with a retaining wall behind it. As you increase up the hill, you'll get to section BB, much the same, looking to put some foliage between the walkway, between the buildings, home hardware, and the 222 Main Street. And then finally, on the last section, CC is where we get up to home hardware right in front of Main Street. So you can see on the furthest to the right, we have the existing sidewalk that's adjacent Main Street, and then this is where the new walkway will turn and come to alignment with that area, with, again, a shallow retaining wall. So if there's any questions for clarity?
Yeah, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Jenkins.
Is there any lighting along this way, or whether it's natural, not natural, but from power poles or anything for this for nighttime access?
Yeah, so there is lighting there right now between the buildings. There allegedly was an agreement between the town and those properties many moons ago. We're looking to improve on that lighting by installing lights directly into the facade of the retaining wall, which would help illuminate kind of that walkway, and then would be clearly ours to maintain and to own in perpetuity. So yes, there'd be improvements to lighting.
Other questions? Councilor Merrill?
I guess my question is, up top, there's a bike rack. Is that all that's going to be in that area, is just the sidewalk and the bike rack again? Or is there going to be seating in that little area there by Home Hardware?
So right now, there's a hydrant in that area, as well as a bike rack and a waste receptacle. Once the project's complete, we would certainly look for the opportunity to add some furniture in the area for pedestrians. We're working right now with our economic development, or community economic development partners in another area of town, so we would utilize them again to kind of engage with the needs of the community, and if there's an opportunity to put that furniture out, we certainly will.
So there isn't any plans for any type of concrete seating or anything like that to go in that area? I do see the waste receptacle and the fire hydrant there, but it looks like it's going to be an area there that we could take advantage of and put some proper seating in that area.
Yep, noted, and that would be addressed when we have the wall in place and we can look towards kind of next steps with the furniture for sure.
I know, Director Grant, that the first time we looked at this, you said you're not exactly sure, kind of once you peel it back, what that looks like in terms of that adjacent building, the Home Hardware, soon to be brick, I guess, building, and so, but the design features and specs that we're putting in, are we pretty sure that will be a solid structure for, like, what's the life expectancy of that retaining wall?
I would expect it to last enough decades to outlive most of us in the room, probably 50 to 75 years.
Okay.
What we understand is that structure that's there now was built in the 80s, so that's about a 40-year lifespan, so maybe a little bit improved beyond that.
Okay.
And it's meant to kind of to address the area while not requiring guardrails and other kind of approaches that we don't necessarily need to have in place.
Okay, and I see under cost implications that this is budgeted in the capital investment plan. So I just wanted to confirm. So it's budgeted at almost $98,000 in the CIP. Is that right?
I do not have the
Okay.
CIP in front of me right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
I do. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
I did look that up, and in the 24-25 year, it was budgeted at $66,000, and this recent one, it's budgeted at $97,630.
97,630. Yeah, that's the number I have as well. Yeah. Go ahead.
Just looking at page 40, if we could pull that up.
That's the one. Yeah.
So on the right, between the blue building, which would be Celeste Hair Design, and I'm just wondering what becomes of that space. Like, so folks will not be using that to walk down. There'll be that completely different section there. But I'm just wondering, in that area, is there not, to Councillor Mayor's earlier point about, concrete seating or something like that, is there not an opportunity there to do some kind of bump out with seating? I'm just curious about that.
And that would be our intention. So looking at the area, excuse me, between section BB and CC, we have to get in there and remove what's existing, get an understanding what the foundation, that structure looks like to kind of appreciate how we can address that. One of the things we need to incorporate is some like a rest area for the barrier-free path of travel. So we'll be attempting to do that as compliant as we can with the accessibility directions. As well as providing, additional site furniture if there's an opportunity. I understand that's council's desire.
And I'm assuming that the grade of this entire thing meets all of our sort of accessibility specs, that we have enough enough runway that we don't need like a cutback or what have you in terms of how steep the grade is?
It's an improvement on accessibility. We've been in detailed discussions with the Accessibility Directorate in Halifax, back and forth on several projects. Paths and trails of this kind of nature are not as explicit as kind of the built environment around physical facilities. So
Right.
it's a challenging balance, I would say, to address that. But we're taking every measure we can to meet the kind of guidelines that are provided.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Carver?
I was just wondering how wide the trail, the walkway is right now.
Right now, it is less than 5 feet, I think, at the narrowest point, and we're looking to increase that up to about 8 feet.
Any other questions, Council?
Is that trail maintained in the winter, or is it planned to be maintained in the winter?
It is currently maintained and will continue to be maintained, yes.
Anything further? Councillor Fancy?
Does that change any of the elevations because of the steepness of coming up? This is just going to be an extension of?
So one of the issues you'll see where it is so steep at Main Street, how we addressed that to try to meet the accessibility standard was adding some length to it to reduce that kind of rise. So that's why you'll see it's got a curvilinear kind of path at the end of it to get to Main Street. It's also removing that instance where pedestrians come up out of the Gorham Street walkway and enter Main Street directly into traffic without being visible. So it'll hopefully alleviate some of the traffic woes as well as pedestrian woes in that area.
Any other questions for Director Grant? Okay, thanks very much, Director Grant, for providing some more detailed information about what this project could look like. The recommended motion here is that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality receive the report titled Gorham Walkway Rehabilitation Update for information. Moved by Councillor Jenkins, I'll say seconded by Councillor Wenzel. Is that okay with you? Okay, for the debate or discussion? Okay, go ahead with comment.
I'm just wondering, I understand that we have to, that there's, you know, some resting implications that will be considered, I guess, from what I understand, on the lower end of that, or at the halfway mark or something like that. But in regards to including, like, you know, a bump out or fixed seating, I don't think it's noted anywhere in the report. And so I'm just wondering if that motion needs to be added to, just to make sure that that is considered, or I guess procedurally, maybe just looking for a little bit of guidance, because I just want to make sure that we do have, you know, that like welcoming environment included in that, recognizing that we have to do a rest stop down below, but also there's that opportunity up above, and I just wouldn't want to see that get lost. So I'm just wondering if it needs to be amended, or if what's noted here is sufficient.
Mr. Mayor, the staff have captured the conversation from council, so confident that we'll be able to meet that expectation.
Anything further before I ask the question? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Director Grant. Looks like you're up again for the Town Hall Arts and Cultural Center capital improvements. Take it away.
Thank you. So we're looking to move forward on the next steps at the Town Hall Arts and Cultural Center. So just to recap, last fall we produced a tender and we secured the services of DSRA Architecture to do a needs assessment. The outcome of that needs assessment provided for upgrades for the facility, which we have incorporated into the capital investment plan over the next 2 years. So the work for this year that we're proposing right now to continue on with is the second floor platform lift, the emergency egress from the balcony, electrical upgrades, as well as the phase 1 heating and cooling. So phase 1 heating and cooling, just to recall, is the town hall area proper, not the auditorium. So our next step from here is to just essentially give DSRA the go-ahead. We've received their proposal, which is attached, and it's in line with our budget expectations. DSRA has already gained a thorough understanding of the facility and are well aware of the tenants' needs, and will work to accommodate both as the project progresses. Thank you.
Any questions for Director Grant on this one? Go ahead.
So just in regard to the items that you just mentioned about the platform lift, the balcony, egress, electric upgrades, and phase 1 of heating and cooling, those other items that are noted in the capital investment plan for future years would come back to council at a later date for funding, like actual allocation of funding and such, because I think we had in a previous conversation had noted that while we understand all of these things need to be done to the Arts and Cultural Center, that we would want to also leverage some grants because they are large expenditures.
Yes, that's correct with our approach, or aligns with our approach. So the work this year would be the design of those four upgrades, but cognizant of the upgrades for future years. So essentially not putting equipment this year in a position that's going to prohibit the work next year or years down the road. The work next year down the road will not commence without council's knowledge. So the steps from here would be to take this back to DSRA, award them the proposal for the design work, go to tender, and return with the tender, the closed tender prices for recommendation for council to award the physical construction of these four elements next.
And at this time, the design work is proposed to 152,000 plus HST.
That's correct.
Okay. I can share that, well, just with respect to what the deputy mayor has said here, there's major improvements to what is a really important municipally owned building. And we heard about the type of programming that our partners who are operating at the Astor Theater are advancing. There is an outstanding proposal with the federal government that I've been waiting to get some clarity on, to hear back on. They had secured funds from from the SEED funding grant from the province. But there is some, we're working through discussions to figure out how they're going to, because I think what they were envisioning is that the electrical upgrade components of this could be covered off by the province, but there is some sort of contingency for the provincial funding to be tied to some federal funding as well. So there's a bit of a knock-on effect until we get some more clarity of what the federal funding looks like. That said, I think it's important that we move ahead I think it's prudent upon us to move ahead with the design work so that we're ready. But I just wanted to give council an understanding of that. We're trying to work through, and I'm engaging with the other orders of government and advocating on behalf of the Astor Theater Society too, who's as a partner has applied for these grants, and trying to do some work behind the scenes to make sure that we get contributions from the feds and the province to make improvements to this facility, so that it doesn't all fall to the municipality. I think it's unrealistic to expect the municipality to pay for all of the upgrades of this historic property. Is there anything further before I look for a motion, though? Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion? Go ahead, Councillor Jenkins.
I'd like to make a motion that the Council for the Region of Queens Municipality authorize staff to proceed with the design and tender of plan upgrades at the Town Hall Arts and Cultural Center as budgeted in the 2026-2031 capital investment plan.
Seconded by Councillor Carver. Further debate or discussion? All those in favor? It's carried. Thank you, Director Grant. And on to Waterloo East Phase 3B. So again, Director Grant, you provide us with a brief overview, please.
Thank you. So we're here this morning presenting the results of the recent tender process for the Waterloo East project to bring it to near completion. So just to recall a little bit of history on the project, as it does date back almost 20 years. So in 2010, we received confirmation that the Waterloo Street area, the raw sewer discharge was medium-sized, low risk, and we're provided with 30 years to rectify that. So as it exists right now, combined sewer outfalls into the Liverpool Harbor. Work began following that in 2016 to isolate, I suppose, an area of School Street above the Waterloo intersection That continued on through 2018, where staff worked on preparing detailed design and securing environmental permits from Nova Scotia Environment Climate Change. So in 2019, when staff were in position with those permits, it was proposed to council to complete the work in that area under a three-phase approach, beginning in 2019, wrapping up in 2022. So in 2019, the first phase of construction began and was completed in the same year, which eliminated the combined sewer outfall at the end of William Street, servicing William, James, and Bartling. In the 3 following years, the project was presented, but was not proceeded with under the capital investment project. However, in 2022, staff did secure funding through the ICIP program, which provided for the next phase of construction to begin in 2023. Due to kind of a late timing of that year, the scope was shortened, and instead of being wrapped up within 3 years, it turned into kind of a 4-year process. Continuing on down the years, additional challenges became with staffing, with other projects and alike. And in 2025, the final phase was anticipated to be completed but was unsuccessful. And as we know, due to a combination of factors, schedule slippage, we closed the project in 2025, December 2025. The remaining outstanding work at that point is 150 meters of sanitary sewer, 165 meters of force main, 165 meters of storm main, as well as the street rehab with curb gutter and sidewalk installation. Recognizing the importance of trying to get this project completed and done once and for all, we reviewed it with our capacity internally and proceeded with a public procurement. The results of that procurement are provided here with the low bid from Dexter Construction of $2.3 million. Under the options, option 1 provides for this phase of construction to be completed. The only outstanding work which would be addressed by internal staff, would be the equipment provided within Pump Station 02, which is the wastewater lift station that will be constructed at the bottom of Waterloo Street. Both bids were compliant. They are significantly over the CIP estimate, which was prepared cognizant of municipal staff completing the work internally. There's a difference between what it costs us directly to the project versus what it costs a contractor to do the project. We compared these unit prices against the recent tender submission for the Mount Pleasant and identified that both were alike in the cost comparison. It does leave an outstanding scope of work of about $300,000 to finish that Pump Station 02 at the bottom of Waterloo. The second option, while current staffing levels do not support this approach, it would be a possibility to shift the direction of our Public Works Department and pull in staff from other areas to try to address the project internally to completion. It would, however, have a detrimental effect to the projects listed there, as well as kind of the critical service provision for water and wastewater issues, maintenance to dry hydrants, litter collection, and other public waste management. Implications are listed under that section, so the expense of $981,000 is listed in the CIP. The additional funding would be supported hopefully through GRID. We're waiting on response from that, as well as long-term borrowing. Questions?
Are you ready? I've more than a few. So I'm just wondering, I guess one of the biggest things in looking at the cost of the tender price, $2.3 million, when you look at that and then compare to what's in the capital investment plan at $980, of course, that's a big difference. Now I'm just wondering, given that this project, this phase was already underway and it concluded in December, what was the cost spent already on that particular phase? Because where I'm going with this is I'm looking back at our capital investment plan for 2025, 2026. And when I look at that and add up the 3 different allocations under Waterloo Phase 3B, it was estimated or costed out in the capital investment plan at $1.8 million. So when I see that 1.8 and I compare it to this 2.3, obviously there's not that much of a difference. But I'm just wondering if you could elaborate on that, because of course when you look at the 982, I guess it is, compared to the 2.3, that's a big difference. And I'm just trying to get an understanding of how we cost out our internal costs.
I'll do my best. So a lot of this work was prepared by the Director of Finance for us. Cost certainty in December, January may not have been as indicative of the actuals, and I know that the Director of Finance is working on a report to staff, or to council, sorry, in the coming weeks for the last following year for the capital investment plan, which will update that. So we were updating numbers in this report as recent as last week to align everything that's in motion and get what was in the CIP updated to align with this project.
So for clarity, we don't know what would have been spent, like ending fiscal March 31st, 2026, what would have been spent on Phase 3B of Waterloo at this time?
Not at this time, but I understand that the Director of Finance will present that in the coming weeks.
Deputy Mayor indicates that she has a few other questions, but I just want to invite in other members of council if they have questions with respect to this report prepared by Director Grant before she proceeds with another question at this time. Hearing none, I'm going to hand it back over to the Deputy Mayor.
Okay. You want to jump in?
Just jump here, and when I look at option 2, not that I'm for that, but I understand if we went with option 2, Director Grant, that there'd be a lot of things missing that we want worked on this year, and one of those is the water transmission extension, which I assume would start at Roy Turner Drive. And I don't have the phases in front of me, so I don't directly remember. So I guess my question would be, if we approve Dexter's or whoever to take over the Waterloo project, would that get us to the Roy Turner Drive water extension quicker? Could we expect that to start as soon as possible?
So proceeding with option 1 would align with the work plan that we have prepared for this year for our department. We are meeting with the Regulatory Appeals Board on Friday to review the application for the Roy Turner Road work, and hope to have, I guess, a conclusion come the end of Friday on what the next steps are for that project to put it in progress. So if everything goes well, we can look towards having construction start there probably midsummer.
Because I just to interject there, because I believe that there is an outstanding motion of council to get a report back on timelines associated with the water transmission work. Right. Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilor Mayor.
I see that this will leave outstanding work to complete the pump station 2. Is there a reason this wasn't included? And when would that work be completed?
So staff will begin working on that at the same time. Both activities can happen concurrently. The difference between putting that pump station to tender, what we would prepare for work internally versus what would have to go to the market, is way outside of our capacity and capability internally. So essentially we can do the design internally, we can procure the equipment and install it without having to have a fully detailed design, versus if we wanted to go to public procurement, we would need to do a lot more technical work beforehand to be prepared to do that. So both activities will happen at the same time, essentially.
I'll recognize you now, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. In looking at this, it says that Dexter Construction estimated timeline, I think, is 24 weeks from the awarding of the tender. Would we expect that would be 24 consecutive weeks, or would this be like a bit of work happening and not? I'm just wondering what the expectation is, because of course the residents on Waterloo have been dealing with construction for 5 years now, and their patience have worn thin, I think, which is fair to say. So I'm just trying to get an understanding, because of course Dexter's is doing our Mount Pleasant service exchange as well, and so what does that look like?
So we won't receive a work plan from them until the project's awarded, but what we would expect to see is that the linear work will start and will conclude without interruption. There may be a minor pause between times where the street rehabilitation takes place, but I wouldn't anticipate that to be more than a week or two. Our intention would definitely be to encourage them or direct them to complete the work start to finish without interruption.
Is there any penalty or anything written into a contract if they don't complete the work in the 24 weeks allotted?
Not typically in the municipal world. We've been working on that, on understanding that approach with both our other project management advisors as well as their solicitor to understand what that kind of looks like. And the information we've received back is that that would typically be accepted by the contractor, where there was a clause put in by the municipality that there was a bonus for an early achievement of substantial completion. So it's a little bit of a give and take if we want to run the risk of paying more to have them done sooner. So it's a balance to find the value, what we're really looking to achieve.
I think from the timeline perspective, what's really important is that the work is done before the construction season closes, before the asphalt plant closes down and snow starts to fly. I think is the critical thing for the residents who are impacted there. Deputy Mayor?
I'm just wondering, I guess historically, when you look back at these different phases, so this project initiated to remove raw sewage from the harbor. And so I'm just wondering what that looks like as far as in the different phases, what allocations would have been put on the debt of the residents of District 13 versus did we, historically speaking, I guess, of the other phases, did the grants cover the cost of this? For the most part, I do understand that in previous years, we were allocating our internal labor. We were including that in our grant funding, and it's my understanding we've been told that we're no longer allowed to do that. But I guess knowing that we did do that in the few years before, did our grant funds from these particular initiatives through the federal government, did they cover our costs? Was there any debt associated to District 13 outside of the grant funds?
So I'm not sure that I have all that information right now, but I can definitely work with the Department of Finance to achieve that. What I understand under the implication section is that the borrowing that's indicated there would be the kind of culmination of the entire phases of projects, utilizing what we have available through the ICIP grant, as well as the potential for the grid grant support, and then with the municipal reserves and long-term borrowing, all in one kind of final step.
So with respect to the grid, I see that there is, under the implication section, noting that request has been made to the province that $538,407 to be utilized in this project. So I know that with that grid, we secured almost $1.2 million from grid, if I remember, 1.18 or something like that. And so is that, half of the grid is the recommendation here, kind of that half of the grid go to offset our costs associated with extending the sidewalk from Miller down to George, and then kind of the other half of it, speaking, kind of roughly half of it, be expended for this project? Is that kind of what you're recommending here?
I think so. So we met with the province following the meeting of council in March, and they indicated at that time that they wanted us to use, I guess they gave us areas to look at where we could use the funding, and we've provided an update to them, which we need approval on back. So the way that we stood up kind of that funding opportunity was to provide half and half on the sidewalk, which is what was approved. We're also providing some financial support to the aquatic center that's under construction as it relates to accessibility, and then with the balance utilized on this project to support the shortfall.
Thank you. Thanks. That sounds like tidy work to take advantage of all of the grid funding with various projects we have underway. Any other questions? Councillor Jenkins?
I have one final question. If this is passed today, when would be the start date? Do you have anything in for that?
We would look to start as soon as possible, so we would begin with the public communication and engagement, and look to have the contractor deployed to the site probably within the 4 to 6 week range. We would have to receive more information from them, sign the contract, and do those steps. But we would expect to be in place within the next month and a half.
So there's a good chance it won't be finished in this building season. Is that correct?
Our expectation is to have it finished in this building season, yes.
Yeah, a little bit concerned about that, I guess. So, of course, the other bid is higher. It said 20 weeks. This one said 24. But I also do see Dexter's Construction cruising along in the Mount Pleasant area as well. And of course, time is money, as we know. I'm wondering, so it says here, of course, that, you know, we could do this in-house, but it would be, those projects would be affected, which Councillor Wenzel had articulated, the Roy Turner water transmission, and we know that we need that work done amongst those other things. I'm just wondering, it notes here about the recruitment being underway for the manager of capital projects, and then it says that will be redeploying capital work resources. So I'm just conscious of the projects that we do have on the go and recognizing that we didn't have a manager of capital projects before and we were still advancing capital project work. So if we're not successful in recruitment or retention of manager of capital projects, how are we going to make sure that these projects continue? And when would we expect the folks who are employed under our capital works to be brought back? Thank you.
So I can say that we have been successful with recruitment of that position. We expect to have the candidate, pardon me, begin the 1st of June. Through the process of onboarding, it's going to take some time to get themselves strengthened in the position with the projects that are in place. From there, we will have to look towards hiring the other staff that we had in previous years to support the projects and complete the ones that are tangible, I guess, within that year, which would include the transmission main.
So sorry, just so is it reasonable to expect then that the projects detailed in the report, Gorham Street, accessible washrooms, QPEC, accessible walkway, water transmission, main and market, that those that we're going to begin to make some progress on those projects like in June?
Yeah, so I think, we'll be back at the 1st of June with the capital projects update. Those projects are all progressing, behind the scenes at the desktop level. Okay. But yes, in June, we would hope to see some physical impacts in the community.
Further questions, council? Any further questions? Okay. Is there a motion? Councilor Jenkins?
I'd like to make a motion that the Council for the Region of Queens Municipality award tender INF 16-2026-2027 for Phase 3B of the Waterloo East project to Dexter Construction Company Limited at the tender price of $2,352,656.25 plus HST as recommended by staff. Thank you.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Charlton. Further debate or discussion at this time? Go ahead.
Thank you. One thing I'm noticing here under the implications is, of course, as Director Grant said, we're looking to get some of those grid funds to be allocated to it. However, the shortfall is estimated to be $725,000. It does say here that it's staff's recommendation that the funding shortfall be borrowed, and based on the municipality's current tax structure, the related cost of debt would be allocated solely to the District 13 area rate. So this is something that I wanted to bring up because the District 13 tax rate, of course, as we know, is the highest. And I think that we need to talk about what's fair and equitable here, because when it's at least my understanding in the early 2000s, and I'll look for staff to comment on this if I could, but when water and sewer went the whole way down through Sandy Cove in Brooklyn, down on Brooklyn Shore Road, there was no area rate put in place for that. I don't know at this time, was that done to address sewage that was also going in the harbor? Do you have any context about that?
I understand the project was initiated due to raw sewage outfall, but I was not in a position that was aware of the financial approach to the project.
Thank you. So where I'm going with this is I look at this with Waterloo, and this project was started to remove sewage from the harbor to better the county's environment. And so I would just like to flag that I think, if I'm understanding it correctly, and perhaps maybe we can get more information from the Director of Finance, who I recognize isn't here for this conversation, but wondering about if we can have an opportunity to discuss the part about where the borrowing goes perhaps separately, because I don't think it's fair to solely throw that on the District 13 area rate, recognizing that we have identified that we want to talk about tax reform, of course, but also we're looking at, and we haven't got there yet, but we're looking at water initiatives for Queens County. And that, of course, is not proposed to be an area rate for everyone except for the folks who are in the water utility. So I just wanted to flag it because I think it's important that we are equitable. And I don't think that putting all that there necessarily is. But if we can have an opportunity to discuss that separately, I'm just looking for a little bit of guidance about that. Thank you.
CAO Thor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So one option could be for council to continue to amend the motion to approve the awarding the project to the proponent here, with the funding source to be determined through staff, through future discussion, if you like.
As the mover of the motion, Councillor Jenkins, are you okay with that, to include that as a friendly amendment to your motion?
I really don't know what to say, because if this looks like that all the Queens County is going to be paying for it, then I'm against changing that motion. So right now it's two different things, so I have no idea where to go with this, honestly.
Okay, so I think, though, that if you were to agree to a friendly amendment to your motion, that it would council would still have the opportunity to debate where the funding comes from for this project. But you can also choose not to. You can also choose not to accept the amendment to your motion.
I don't want to accept the friendly amendment to the motion.
Okay. Further debate? Go ahead.
So at this point, Director Grant, we don't know if we're successful in those grid allocations. So if the province doesn't give us those funds towards that, of course, the shortfall increases. And so that would obviously warrant a council discussion. So I'm just wondering how we're navigating this. I very much want to see this contract awarded, just for clarity. This needs to be dealt with efficiently, as quickly as possible. But just recognizing that, like, do we anticipate that we've got the green light on the grid, or we really don't know at all at this point?
It's really hard to speculate. I think the initial discussion with the province would say yes, but until we have it in writing back from them, which I would expect to have in the next week to 2 weeks, if history was kind of an indicator, it's not fair to speculate.
Okay. Anything further? Councillor Jenkins?
Would it be possible I withdraw my motion and somebody else can do a motion with an amendment, then we can vote for or against it?
You always have the opportunity to withdraw your motion.
I will withdraw my motion.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Just a comment, I guess, at this point. I think the motion needs to remain. He withdrew it, so I'll put it back on if I have to. But I guess I find it a little bit hard to have to get into the meat of this without the financial aspects. Like, we're asking lots of questions about the financial lens, and we don't have someone here who can answer those, so I do find that challenging. Does this work need to go forward? Absolutely. So I guess if we can just get some further clarity, because at the end of the day, it does say here, of course, that we're staff are recommending to do the long-term borrowing. But the report that we have in front of us says that it's a shortfall of 725. If we don't get the green light from the province, that number has increased. And so council would obviously need to be aware of that. And so I guess at the end of the day, how we navigate that is what I'm struggling with a little bit, because if the director of finance was able to give us the information about, how this has worked in the past, like what we've spent or how we allocated funds before, I think it would position council a little bit differently. Regardless of that, the contract needs to be awarded. I just think that it's important that council has an opportunity to have a separate conversation about long-term borrowing, the effects of, because what does $725,000 do to the area rate of District 13? How long is it borrowed for? These are all the things that we don't have answers to, and so we don't have the full picture in my mind from where I would like to see. Does the contract need to be awarded? Yes. Those other parts are kind of, I think, separate from that on how we decide to fund them. So I'll put the motion back on the floor that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality award tender INF 16-2026-2027 for Phase 3B of the Waterloo East project to Dexter Construction Company Limited at the tender price of $2,352,656.25 plus HST as recommended by staff. And that, perhaps, staff return to council with further information for the shortfall of this project outside of grants with options for long-term borrowing.
Seconded by Councillor Wenzel. Further debate or discussion? Go ahead.
CAO Thorpe, does that suffice?
Yes.
Anything further? All those in favor? Those against? 2 against, motion's carried. Thanks, Director Grant. Okay, the next item we have is 7.6, the Rural Water Initiative. And we have Director Henhofer and Mr. Wilson joining us to discuss this item.
Hi, everyone. So we're going to talk about the Water Initiative. It's a proposed pilot project, and it's going to be focusing on...
Sorry, Angela, you're just going to have to get real close to that microphone. Yeah, there you go. Or get the microphone
How's
real
that?
close to you. That's
Perfect,
good.
thank you.
There you go.
I'm going to talk about the Rural Water Initiative and the proposed pilot project to improve water security across the municipality. It's designed to address both immediate needs as well as storage and long-term challenges with access to infrastructure. We're going to walk through the recommended components, how they work together. Under the recommendations, there's going to be 3. The first one is with regard to water conservation and storage, and it is including rain barrels and water totes. The intent is for low-income households to receive 1 rain barrel and 1 tote at no cost, and other households could participate in a cost-sharing model. The proposed is a 60-40 split, so 60% to the municipality and 40% to residents, where delivery is required. However, we would incentivize it to 80% municipal and 20% residential if they can pick it up. We realize that the cost of delivery is going to be expensive, so the more that we can incentivize to have the residents pick it up, it would actually offset and save us more money. We would limit the quantities to two barrels or 1 tote to ensure that it's equitable across the area. The second recommendation would be to move toward community well solutions, prioritizing an option of participating with a partner, or a sub to that would be a complete municipal community well, similar to Cowie. And then the third recommendation is going to be with regard to implementing the well loan program, and that also connects to bylaw 30, which is what Alex will speak about. So the purpose is with regard to looking at the structured set of options for water access and flexibility, and what we can actually implement into 2026. Keeping in mind that this would just be a pilot project, we can determine what the levels are and what the status is for next year and how we want to participate. We're hearing obviously that we've got water availability issues. There's concerns across the region, especially in dry periods that impact residents. And following the workshop, council had directed staff to explore some options. So the first option is the rain barrels and totes. So it's option 1 and 2. It's, again, this would be under the water conservation perspective. It would be the fastest way that we can implement, and it would provide residents to capture rainwater, store either potable or non-potable water, and improve household level resilience. Based on some supplier pricing, the proposed budget would be approximately 150 rain barrels and 75 water totes. It'll obviously depend when we get to the final pricing, but that's kind of the general of where we've put it into the budget. One thing that I do want to acknowledge is we know that we've got approximately 360 households that are on low income, and they meet the threshold. However, we don't expect full uptake, so that's why we're keeping it for the pilot project in lower numbers. With regard to option 3 in the community wells, this would be sharing water access at the community level where individual wells might not be reliable. And again, there's 2 aspects to it, which is the community partnering with a partner organization or a complete municipal owned well. This option would allow us to move quicker if we worked on the partnership with another organization and reduce some upfront costs and potentially serve more than one area. We are looking at some opportunities of where these could be put in. And there could be some lease costs which are relatively low, but the total cost of the program could still be higher because we would need to still have some infrastructure, do the water testing and treatment requirements, as well as have site access. And then the fourth, I'm going to pass it over to Alex, and he's going to talk about the well loan program.
Thank you. So looking at the well loan program, so it's kind of a two-parter. In the recommendation section. Sorry, I'm just scrolling here. Kind of the first portion of this is just approving that is the direction the council wants to go. So the recommended motion, is that council approve the implementation of the well loan program with an initial allocation of $100,000 and direct staff to prepare for council's consideration and first reading of bylaw number 30. Bylaw 30 is drafted and attached for your viewing pleasure. And the second part to that is explore partnership opportunities with the facilitation of the well loan program with the Clean Foundation in 2026. So that program is very similar to what the District of Lunenburg has in place, where residents apply through the Clean Foundation. The Clean Foundation facilitates basically the loan and then sends us an invoice at the end. And that that limits the cost to non-benefiting taxpayers within the region because the administrative costs are included within the loan agreement that they would sign with the Clean Foundation. So it takes a lot of administrative cost off of our end as well. The second recommended motion, on my portion of this is just looking for direction of council on the terms of that loan agreement. Currently, staff are recommending that the maximum loan amount be $30,000. We are also recommending that within the draft bylaw number 30, that it shall specify that a 2% interest rate compounded annually will be charged on any loan, and that within the draft bylaw number 30, the loan repayment term of 10 years shall be implemented.
Thank you. So going back into the main implications of it, the proposed budget is $250,000, and it would be coming from the accumulated surplus. We would allocate $50,000 for the barrels and totes, including delivery and logistics, $100,000 for the community wells, and $100,000 for the loan program. The allocation is designed to balance reach, impact, as well as flexibility. And we recognize that not all residents need the well program. Some might just need the community well or have opportunities for storage. So we're looking at a variety of ways to be able to support different residents' needs. Under the communications, we would be supported through informing residents, explaining the eligibility and guide participation. So we would need to have some clear communication that we would set out in order to manage expectations and uptake. This would align with 8 of Council's strategic priorities as we move through it, and then the bylaw is bylaw 30 that Alex had just mentioned. So in summary, it's a balanced pilot project. It's designed to provide immediate support, improve water access, and begin addressing some longer-term infrastructure needs. Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, the two of you, for your work on this, pulling this together. Greatly appreciated. Questions? Council questions? Go ahead, Councillor Wenzel.
Just a quick one on procedural. The bylaw here it's a proposed bylaw. It's not a bylaw already in place, correct?
That's correct.
Procedurally, we can't enact a bylaw, can we, without, I mean, like today, without proper notice?
No, so I think what Alex is looking for, Mr. Wilson is looking for here, is a feedback on some of the core elements of the bylaw before bringing it forward for first reading. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, what the intention would be to bring the bylaw to the next meeting of council.
Right.
If that be the
Just
will of
looking
council.
for some direction from us on some of the core elements of it, the repayment term, the interest rate, and was the other element of it. Yeah, and then the maximum amount of the loan per project, per resident taking advantage. Yeah. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if you've had any conversations with MODL about this. So of course, I know they've had this. I'm not sure how many years they have had this program in place. But one thing that I recall reading recently, I think within the last 6 months, is they actually changed the terms of their repayment. So originally it was set out to be 10 years. And then it was revised to be 5 years, still at 2%, which of course we know we can't get loans elsewhere for 2%. And so with a provision to, if you were low income, that you could apply and you could have the 10-year repayment. So I'm just wondering if you looked at that at all and if you can speak to that, because of course we're seeing just the 10-year proposal for repayment.
Yeah, absolutely. In short, no, haven't talked directly to Modo. We did talk to the Clean Foundation. I may have not. I can't speak if Deputy CEO has or anybody else. But we have spoken to the Clean Foundation on a number of occasions in the exploratory of the program, and we did a lot of the background information around the dollar amount, the loan term, percentages comes from the Clean Foundation. So we looked at the MODL bylaw, most certainly. There's a discussion around the 5 year with the 10-year hardship clause. We felt for the simplicity portion that it would be easier to do a 10-year agreement rather than have that hardship clause, as MODL refers to it, within their bylaw. We felt that it would be easier just to stick it to 10, and of course, if residents wish to pay that off quicker, they certainly could.
And so just to clarify, so the $30,000 is the maximum loan amount, the 2% interest rate, and the 10-year repayment term. Those are all recommendations of the Clean Foundation, who has helped to administer this program for other municipalities. Is that right?
So I wouldn't say a recommendation of the Clean Foundation. I would say that there was information that we gathered from them. So in our initial conversation with Clean, we asked what other units were doing, specifically modal. We asked, what your average loan process amount was. They said between 20 and 25,000. And then we looked at the other bylaws from around various municipalities and what theirs looked at to kind of come up with the number.
Just further to that comment, in looking at MODL's bylaw, and I think in speaking to the warden, Weber for Chester, they max out at 20,000. And so I'm just wondering, yeah, I guess where the 30,000 comes from. If we think, if the Clean Foundation is saying they're going between 20 and 25, why we're suggesting to go to 30.
Yeah, the reasoning for that is one of the things that the Clean Foundation highlighted is that there are cases where the work costed exceeds that 20,000. So the resident that's applying for this program is getting a loan for 20,000, but then still paying five, maybe even $10,000 out of pocket directly to the contractor. So with the maximum loan amount, it would still be the quoted work from the contractor would be what they would get the loan for. So it's the way with the clean process would work is they submit the quotes from the contractor. The contractor, if it's $25,000, they get a $25,000 loan. If it's 21, that sort of thing. So it's not a here's $30,000, pay the contractor. It's give us the quote from the contractor, show us that the work was completed, and then we'll pay the contractor. So the resident themselves never actually handles the money.
Yeah, I've got a few here, but I'll just start off with the one. When Modal first put that program in, they had government offered a lot of monies to be able to get the program running, to be able to help out with this. That program I know is ended, but is there an opportunity to ask the government to say, hey, look, you're not supplying water bottles, you're not doing these things, other things, that there may be some opportunities that they would then in turn, because we never ever used it when it would come out before, that we could be able to say, hey, look, maybe there's some opportunity for us now.
I'm flashing there. Yes, so there are some grant opportunities for the first three options more so with regard to the rain barrel, tote, and community wells. There's some that we're looking at. We were advised that there's another one. So as we roll out the program, if that's the desire of council, then we will absolutely look at grant opportunities to be able to work within the program.
I recognize you now, Councilor Merrill.
Thank you. As we know, Brooklyn Recreation has a fundraiser going for selling rain barrels as well. Is it possible that we could order them from the rainbarrel.ca that Brooklyn Recreation is involved in? Their delivery, the price of the rain barrels is $80, and if they have sales of $150, their delivery is free. So it just looks like it would substantially reduce our freight costs. As I can see, we've got like $15,000 in there, while we're still supporting our community member, Brooklyn Recreation. So I'm just wondering if that's possible.
I think at this point, all options are on the table. We'll definitely look at local, and I have actually contacted Rain Barrel for some of these as well. So I think that there's always some options, and we'll look at the best solution that we can provide. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd also like to note that if their postal code is in Milton, Brooklyn, or Liverpool, it's delivered free to the residents. So, yeah, that would be wonderful.
I guess I didn't press it hard enough. Further to what Councilor Miro said, if there were some people who bought these rain barrels not knowing this program was going to come forward and they were eligible for the low income, would we be I know this would be retroactive, so to speak, but would that be something we'd consider? You know, because you don't want to see them pay for that and then find out we got a program that comes out and they've already paid this money out.
The fact that they've already purchased them might be a bit of a challenge. I don't know if that would work. I would have to look into it, to be honest, but I think it would be more difficult because they've already purchased it from the supplier, especially if they've got it on hand. If they haven't received it, then that might be a bit different, that they can order it through us, but that would be something as we roll out. It'll also depend on the timing, so I can't indicate that that would be an option at this point.
I just had a question, just with respect to, so number 2, around the community well solutions, and I see that the suggestion is to go kind of option 3B as opposed to 3A, so to work with existing community groups who have drilled wells, have facilities, buildings, what have you, and partner with them. I know in the discussions around water security yesterday that we had around the table with our municipal leaders from the 5 units in Lunenburg County, that's an approach that a lot of them are using too, and clearly it's the more cost-effective option because we don't have to install a new well, install a new structure, what have you. I'm just wondering, do we know, are we aware of community groups, right? Like, have we done any digging in terms of which community groups would potentially be partners in that?
Deputy CAO had reached out to 2 of the councillors and asked for some feedback. So we've done very preliminary, and that's about it. There would be some things, although they might already have a well. We need to be able to do some testing to see that how much water is there and the depth and the validity of it. So there would still be some additional costs, potentially also having some infrastructure of having a building there so that the supplies and all of the infrastructure is there. So it's not just a matter of having the wells. So there will be some additional ones, but we have got some information preliminary, but I have not reached out to anybody at this time.
That's good. Yeah, because I know too, in terms of access for like round-the-clock access, installing like a spigot outside or an access point outside that wouldn't necessarily already be there on existing infrastructure. But okay. Further questions, Deputy Mayor?
Just further to that, with the community well option, it does note here reduces municipal responsibility for operations and maintenance, but if we're going to partner with these community groups for a well, will we have some responsibility in the maintenance to ensure the water quality?
Yes, and speaking with Director Grant, we would still have to do some testing, so the municipality would be responsible for that from a legal perspective to make sure that it's potable.
Further questions? Councillor Jenkins?
I worry with the loan program that we're going to be adding unpayable debt to people that can't afford some of their property taxes right now. They get discounts and whatnot. Is there an ability to pay involved with this program, or do they just ask for the money and they drill a well and they get that money?
Yeah, so in conversation with the Clean Foundation, kind of the process that would operate is they would get the application, then Clean would contact our Director of Finance. So providing that the person isn't in arrears or owing property tax to the region, then we would give them the yay or nay. There is provision within the bylaw that doesn't necessarily speak to income, but it does speak to household value. So the loan is $30,000 as currently written, I should say, $30,000 or 20% of the household value or household PVSC number.
The assessment
value.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, in short, no, there isn't a like a credit check as part of the process, but there is the check if they've paid their taxes.
But the total, but some of the checks that are currently in the proposed bylaw is, just to reiterate, the loan amount could not exceed 20% of the assessed value of the property, and that the applicant could not be in arrears. They had to be in good standing in terms of their tax account with the Region of Queens Municipality to be able to participate.
Yes, that's correct.
I think this is something that we could be adding burden to these people that cannot afford this. It'd be nice for them to have water and a drilled well, but we don't have any plan for when we start taking their houses because they can't pay it and it's a lien on the property. So will be treated the same as if they didn't pay their property taxes. So I think that's something that we have to address and what we're willing to throw away. I know several people that have poor water and would love to get into this program, but none of those people can repay it. They might be able to do on a short term, but I can see when the winter comes and the heat bill goes up that $200 or $250 or $300 they had to pay every month won't be getting paid. So then we have to decide what we're going to do as a council to take care of that. We could be putting burden on these people and have no benefit to them other than they'll be losing their house.
Any other questions for staff at this time, though? I would think. Yeah, but sorry, I'm going to recognize Councillor Fancy. Yeah.
One other thing that goes along with the water shortage is showers. And I don't know if anything could be implemented there that, say, community halls, that we could be able to help support them to put a shower into their place. I say community halls, it could be anything, but that would be the most logical. That because when you don't have water, there's one thing about drinking and flushing the toilet, but another thing to be clean. So I don't know if that's something that could be added or not.
At this time, we didn't include showers in the pilot project. It might be something that we can look into in future. I think with regard to putting it into community facilities, it's a great idea. We would just need to ensure also that they've got the well capacity and that there's the infrastructure and who's going to be there to manage the opening and closing. So it might be something that we could look into in future years unless council wishes that I include that in the pilot project.
I just want to flag for that we do have a community shower program currently in place to offset the cost of providing showers at community halls. So various community partners make use of that, and then also through the capital side of the community investment fund, if a community hall wanted to participate in a shower program and would be looking for municipal monies to offset the cost of installing, that could be achieved through the community investment fund. So I think between the community investment fund and the community shower program that we have in place, there actually already exists a mechanism. Perhaps when we're engaging with our community stakeholders or community partners in standing up, if it's the will of council to stand up go with the option B, the community partnership wells program, there might be opportunities to talk about that, the opportunity for that. But I just want to flag that we actually do have a couple programs that community groups could access to facilitate kind of what you're talking about there, Councillor Fancy. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thanks. Assuming you're looking for feedback with the bylaw at this point as well. So a few concerns that I have is, I guess originally when we talked about allocating $250,000 for loan programs, we recognized that wasn't a ton of money, and now there's even less money to allocate to the actual well loan program. I think it's at 100,000, right? Yes. Yep. So one concern that I have, the way that it's currently set out, anyone can access the funds, get a loan, and it take 10 years to pay back. And so there's no threshold for income to be able to do it. So one concern that I have is I worry about those people who are most vulnerable, who need the 10 years to pay back the $200 a month or whatever it is. It could be chewed up by those who are not most vulnerable, and they also have the same 10 years to pay it back. Also recognizing that it's going to take a long time for any money to come back into the municipality to potentially replenish this. And I think that's what happened with MODL and why they changed their well loan program to 5 years. Unless you met the income threshold, they would give you 10, which I think is lovely. I think you need to have that in my mind. I'll just go back to the concern about there's not a lot of funds there as it stands. Even if it were 250 and it's not, it's 100,000 the way it's proposed. And so that can get chewed up in a couple very quickly. And you know, the people, I understand what Councillor Jenkins is saying about it would, you know, because it's a loan, it would become a lien on the property taxes, of course. But those are who are most vulnerable. This is the best option for them if they can afford the payment and choose to enter into the program, because of course it's not mandatory. So I'm worried about the funds being chewed up with the, hey, anyone can go into this program. It takes 10 years to pay it back. So I wanted to flag that. I think that should be reassessed, because if you want to access this and you can get a 5-year loan for 2%, that's better than anything else you can get anywhere. So people are going to be attracted to that because of the interest alone. So that's just something that I would like to flag. I know that there's no provision about septic with this. It kind of got all separated, and we originally talked about well and septic, recognizing that we would need a lot more funds for that as well. So I think it makes sense that that's separate, and we look for federal funds to potentially deal with some straight pipes that are still on the west side of Liverpool and things like that. Before I carry on too much further, I just want to say I love this report. Thank you for this. It's very detailed, and I should have said that earlier. Another concern I have is, although it's identified here with potential grant opportunities, I looked online at the Green Municipal Fund, I think it was, and I believe that this would fall under their Climate Adaptation Fund, where you can leverage up to $1 million, and they will provide 60% of the cost. It does note there that it would have, if you were doing like multi-phases, that any funds would have to be tied to something that you haven't already done. So although I absolutely love all of these things and think they're really meaningful for residents, I think by council putting all these things in place right now, without it being contingent on accessing that grant, we're gonna be really limiting ourselves on what we can achieve. So although it's great, they're great things, it's really small scale, and I think if we can leverage the Green Municipal Fund, where they'll cover up to 60% of the cost, we could actually take this and beef it up. We could add more money to the well loan program. We could look at more than 2 community wells, because of course we've got 7 different districts here. And so I know that there's been 2 potentially identified from councillors in the room, but I think of how widespread Queens is, and I think that community well option is really lovely because it's affordable. It makes the most sense. But again, I think we should work smarter, not harder, and make our money be better. And although we have $250,000 allocated for accumulated surplus funds, we could really build off that, I think, by leveraging a grant. So I just wanted to flag that, because I love all of these things. I just think I would hate to see us just do it and it's kind of a drop in the bucket when we could have really done it really larger scale. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Further questions? Further questions or clarifications at this time? No? Okay, go ahead. Can I hand the chair to you, though?
Can I ask one more question?
Well, I'll hand the chair to you, and you can continue to ask
All right,
questions.
fair. I'll take the chair. It's busting. Just in regard to the Green Municipal Fund. So in looking at that, I'm just trying to pull it up here. That seems to be the heavy hitter of the grants. And so it says funding rounds are April 14th to June 25th. So we're in that open period right now. Is this just a grant that's kind of been identified at this point? Do we have any further context? Could we essentially pick up this report if the motion of council is amended to say and apply, to utilize this and access the Green Municipal Fund or grant funding? Maybe we don't need to be super specific. Are we ready to go to get a grant?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as part of our community climate capacity partnership with Clean, we actually have access to resource that is willing to help apply for the grant application. So in conversation with those folks that I've had last week, in conversation with those folks last week, we are at a place where we will be able to apply. It was kind of their recommendation that we wait until we have something, approved by council that's actionable before applying.
Sure. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So
Councilman.
just following up with that conversation with Maddie, with Deputy Mayor. So we're ready to go for a grant, but you need a plan in place first. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like, take this plan, if we have this plan, then we can apply for the grant? Is that what I read out of that?
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to apply for the grant until we have something, a plan that's approved by council.
So question, Mayor, so then we could essentially amend this motion that comes out of this to providing that a grant is established or applied for, or
I think, so just when you briefly stepped into the room, I had asked about the Green Municipal Fund.
I could hear.
Okay, cool. You heard, well, okay, good sound in the bathroom. So just wondering, maybe we should just like look at individual sections and see if we want
Yeah.
to change them. Okay.
Sure. So maybe I think it makes sense to take them to chunk it up a little bit. So maybe if we start with direction of council with respect to preparation of the bylaw. I don't know. Are we feeling okay? Is council feeling okay in terms of providing direction around the $30,000 max, 2% interest rate, and 10-year repayment, or is that something that we want to provide a different direction on? I know, Councilor Jenkins, you have some concern with respect to.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't agree with putting more debt load on to people that can't afford their taxes. It's unfortunate, but I just don't know any other option. I mean, I can just see it now, and the next council has to go through a tax sale, and some of them are these people that couldn't afford to pay their taxes, and then they couldn't afford to pay their well fees, and they're losing their homes because of it, and it's very quite possible that happens.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, understanding that that plausible unintended consequence of a program like this, I think that's fair to note. I think the challenge from my perspective is how do we make loans available, low interest loans available to folks who could really take advantage of this. But yeah, I mean, understand where you're coming from there. But do we want to provide direction on this today? Go ahead.
Yeah, because I've had 2 people last year already ask if we were going to do this, so there are people interested. I mean,
there's a lot of
I
interest in
understand what you're saying. But yeah, I agree. We should have it available for some.
Councilman?
well, if they're not paying their taxes, then they wouldn't be able to apply for a loan, right?
Oh, yeah. I think
I
what
mean, if you
Councilor
can't pay
Jenkins
your
is talking about is that they're in good standing now, but then they get financial pressures in the future, and then they end up defaulting on the loan, not being able to repay the taxes and what have you. Yeah. It could happen to any one of us. So yeah. Councilor Roy?
As well as Councillor Carver, I had a lot of phone calls last year. People need help, and they look to us. So I'm in agreement with it. We've got to help them somehow. And if this is the way to go, I agree. And the community wells and the other programs in this will also help and let people know. Some people don't even, and I mean, when you can get to town, sure, but we're talking Port LeBaire, Lower Port Jolly, not everybody can get to town to get, you know, potable water. So when their wells go dry, they're stuck. So I think this is great. Thank you.
I would just go back to the same concerns I raised earlier about if it's 10 years for everyone and there's no income threshold, you will get folks who will apply for it just because there's a 2% interest rate. And those people who are more vulnerable, who could choose to enter into the program because they could afford the payment over 10 years, might not be able to actually get the program because the funds are already gone. And so that's the one, I think there needs to be, I think that there needs to be a tiered rate where it's like 5 years, if it's not contingent on an income threshold, and that the low income threshold can repay it over the 10 years, because it will be like 3 wells with $100,000. And so I guess, we're talking about the draft bylaw, and then we're talking about the recommendations, which are separate but, interconnected. And so that would be about my comment about leveraging grant funds and beef that up. Like it would make, if all of these things fall in that climate adaptation green municipal fund, which I believe they do, including the well loan program, unless I'm misunderstanding, then we could say we're going to allocate $300,000 to that well loan program, because we're trying to go after a grant, and then recognizing that if there's a 5-year threshold, then as that gets repaid, it's not so spread out. So I just am concerned that the folks who would really benefit from this won't even stand a chance to get their application in if the money's gone. And so that's the concern I have about that.
It did, Mr. Wilson, did that come up at all in your discussions with Clean Foundation in terms of mechanisms to prevent kind of, residents who could probably afford to pay for a drilled well or access a drilled well without taking advantage of the program? Like, did that come up at all?
Sure. No, it didn't really come up in the conversation because of the parameters of Modal's bylaw. So ultimately, in their eyes, or their view of it is that we set the parameters. So whatever those parameters may be, is that the will of council sets the parameters via the bylaw, and then they operate the program within the parameters that council sets.
Yeah, and is your understanding that Modal's bylaw, does it have like what the deputy mayor is talking about here in terms of a maximum household income for eligibility in the program?
I don't have it in front of me, but I can check.
Okay. Go ahead.
I also just think if we can look at the actual recommendations and figure out if we're okay with them, it's my understanding that would position our staff to be able to take that and run with it to get a grant. I think, in fairness to our staff, they came forward with this because council, wants urgent action on this,
Sure.
but it also has to make sense financially, and so I think that's why we see that draft bylaw, because staff are trying to advance that as quickly as the will of council. And so, in my mind, if we look at those recommendations and figure out, where we want to increase, like if there is an appetite to increase the community wells beyond 2, for example, or if we don't like the split of the water totes, like the municipal portion versus the residential portion, like we give that feedback, I think we could send our staff back and get clarity on the actual bylaw part, because I don't think we're ready to advance it as quickly as maybe we originally thought, in my view. And so I think they're kind of 2 separate things, but not, because so then we could just have that feedback. We could have Mr. Wilson reach out to MODL, get a little bit of more feedback from them, like what was their uptake like? Did folks come in who had other means to act, to drill a well, and did it leave this gap where people who needed it most didn't have it? Like, those are the things I'd like to know, because I think it would be important to implement in the bylaw if we're talking about trying to, obviously we're trying to help people overall, but we don't want it all chewed up.
So the 2 things I've heard articulated from members of council with respect to the proposed bylaw and loan well program is, can there be a provision to ensure that basically residents of sufficient means who don't need to participate in the program don't, so that they, like, some way of preventing against residents from taking advantage of it who aren't in a position of vulnerability or something. I'm not sure how to frame that the best. And then the other thing I heard too is there a mechanism too in terms of forgiveness or extension or something like that to prevent against the situation that Councillor Jenkins is articulating in terms of this leading to a lien on their property. Those are the two things I heard. I'm not sure if there are other sort of major implications that we don't see captured within the bylaw that we would like to see staff research a little bit more. Those are the two things I heard. How to prevent against sort of higher income homeowners from accessing because it's not the intention of the program. And then is there an opportunity to put in a mechanism for extension of the repayment period or forgiveness of a portion of the loan in the event that somebody who took advantage of the program isn't able to repay it or able to repay it in the timeline that's articulated in the agreement. Does that satisfy, like, in terms of, are there other things that you would like Alex to dig in deeper on in terms of working toward a first draft of this bylaw? And I do want to echo, I greatly appreciate the timely, sort of urgent and nimble approach at pulling together something quickly here.
Yes, I think those are the 2 points in particular. The one thing is to check with modal. I mean, they probably have had some people that they've had this same situation, so we don't want to be we don't want to be reinventing the wheel. Find out what they did, how they did protection. Did they change anything to make it work? So people didn't run into that situation. So I greatly appreciate what you've done here. You guys did something in a very short time that's much needed.
I have a question. It's just, I'm curious. We do the water totes and whatnot. Where do they get the potable water from for these water totes in Queens County?
I had that same question.
There are external companies that can fill for potable water, so the resident would have to have a supplier come in to fill the totes. We would not be looking at filling totes. Culligan and Eastern Lights would come out to Queens County as examples. There's others, I'm sure, as well. Those are two that I've heard of in the area that come out. I do not know.
My understanding too, by talking to a couple different people, I think the watershed down in Lunenburg, they have a truck. Actually, somebody has taken it as a business to have a truck that with the tote on the back that they go around and fill up different people's totes. So, and I asked if they were busy. Said they can't keep up. It's so busy.
Who is responsible for these totes when they get damaged or not usable? Do we just throw them out, or do the people have to pay to replace them if say they left water in them and they froze and split? So who's responsible for that?
After the resident purchases it, is their responsibility, just like anything else that they would purchase. It would not be onto the municipality, I don't foresee.
So they would take ownership of it. It would just would be subsidizing the price of the cost of it.
Correct.
This program. Any further questions? In the discussion around the community well program, I heard folks leaning toward a community partnership model, like going the 3B option as opposed to the 3A option. Does anybody feel very strongly that we should be going the 3A option, which is standing up our own community well infrastructure at this time? Or is it the will of council to be directing staff to really move forward and with the option 3B, which is to prioritize community partnership wells? Maybe there's something that we could provide direction on, or not at all.
Well, Either way, in Caledonia, you're gonna have to drill a well, I would say, unless you talk to the person I gave you the name of. Have you talked to them yet?
I've not reached out to anybody. It was just information gathering at that time.
Yeah, because, I mean, I thought maybe we could do on the property we bought out there, and that could be municipally owned, right? But there are some other people that I gave you names of that they do have wells, but I don't know if it would be enough, right?
Right.
They may have to have another well.
Councillor Roy?
Just maybe a concern, I guess, with the community sharing. Say, for example, you take a community hall and they have their own source of water for them. So what's the guarantee that that well's not going to go dry? Do you know, like, will that be thoroughly investigated, and what happens if it does?
With wells, there are no guarantees, unfortunately. It would be having to do some research with regard to the quality of water, the depth that they have, and then in that analysis, it might have to come back that a new well is drilled. So that's the whole early part of the community well stage, is to try to understand what the quality of water is and what the quantity as well. Yeah.
When we did the addition onto the Greenfield Fire Hall, we were worried about our water supply with, in the event that it was, the hall was being full used because of a catastrophe or whatnot. We looked at putting in a storage tank with a company, and it required the storage tank, UV lights, a booster pump, and a few other things, and it worked out to a cost of between $10,000 and $11,000. The idea of that was so you could fill this big tote up, and it was bigger than these ones that you're talking about, and then it would give the time for the well to recuperate and fill up that tote on a timely, like every day it would fill it up a little bit, and as I say, it gave the well time to recover each time, and I think any community group would have to do that with a drilled well. It also allows time, because in Greenfield we have iron and whatnot, so that there's a double system on the Greenfield Fire Hall. One is for softener and one is for the iron, and it also gives that system time to work. So that's the sort of cost that we would be looking at the fire hall. I presume that the rec center would be the same way, because you'd be crazy to do it without having that extra storage tank involved in the system.
So lots of good discussion. I'm not sure if there's a motion or direction that we want to provide staff in terms of next steps here. What I'm hearing is that they do need a decision of council to then pursue other funding avenues to advance this. I think the actual shape that the program takes those details are going to become clear as we move along here. Yeah, option 3B as it relates to the community partnership wells. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'd like to do the motion for the rain barrels.
Okay.
If that's possible. I move the Council of Region of Queens Municipality approve the implementation of a water conservation and storage program pilot for the 2026 season, consisting of rain barrels and water totes available to households under the following cost-sharing model: 100% municipal funding for 1 rain barrel and 1 water tote per eligible low-income household, as defined under Administrative Policy Number 9, Tax Exemptions. 60% municipal and 40% resident cost sharing where delivery is required, or 80% municipal and 20% resident cost sharing where residents pick up directly, and that staff explore options with Brooklyn Recreation for purchasing, and a maximum of 2 rain barrels and 1 water tote per household.
Seconded by Councillor Jenkins. Debate or discussion on the motion? Go ahead.
I just have a question for clarity, I guess on the grant. Like, are these going to happen whether we get a grant or not? I'm just a little bit confused with what's taking place here.
That would be the direction of the will of council. Yeah.
So what's the total cost associated with this portion of the 15? 50? Good, yeah.
I guess from my perspective, I love all of these options. I just think we have the opportunity to do this really well by leveraging a climate adaptation grant. And so we could increase the thresholds. You know, obviously the water barrel and the rain barrels, or the water totes and the rain barrels, the cost of 50,000, it's not a huge number overall. But you look at how much you're going to spend getting water totes and rain barrels out there, and then you only have $100,000 earmarked for well loan programs. And we just heard it could be, you know, upwards 25, 30,000 all in for a well. So we've got 3 people who accessed a loan program. And once we roll these out and they're actually in progress, I think every grant that I've really ever been reviewing or familiar with excludes anything you've already done, any work you've already started, any pilot projects. Has to be something completely separate and something completely new. So for me, I'd be willing to move forward with all of these motions, but with the understanding that we're going to increase the amount allocated to the well loan program, and we're going to tie it to getting a grant that could cover 60% of the entire cost.
Question? My concern is with that is that we could help 3 people, or we could help several dozen people with the rain barrels immediately. You know, by the time we find out if we get a grant or whatnot, it could be August heading into September, and before we do anything, there's several dozen people that don't have water because they didn't get totes or rain barrels or whatever. I think it's best that we get something out there in a timely manner, and it also gauge interest in what people want as well. Like, they might not want a barrel, but they might want a drilled well, and we'll get an idea of the numbers involved. Because helping 3 or 4 people is not going to do anything.
Further debate or discussion? Go ahead.
Perhaps on that note from Councillor Jenkins, maybe we move forward with the $50,000 cost allocated from the accumulated surplus for the rain barrels and the totes. And then if council is interested, maybe we separate those other 3 things where we can increase the amount of money that's going towards them, increase potential sites for community wells beyond 2, increase the amount that's allocated to the well loan program if we can get that I would be pleased to support the first motion if we can also then try to leverage more money on the other end.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Actually, that was my understanding, that we need to get these rain barrels and totes out to the people this summer. This is the demand. This is what they need. So I'm fine with that.
Is that clear for staff? Is that okay? Anything further? Any further discussion or debate on the motion that's on the floor? Okay. All those in favor? It's carried. So, is there another motion here?
So were we, sorry, so if you're looking for another motion, or do we just need to send direction? That, as Deputy Mayor said, we're very interested in all the other aspects of this, but we would like a grant investigated first. Do we need a motion for that, or can we just send direction?
CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So staff are clearly understanding the intent of council. I would draw council's attention specifically to recommendation 4 on page 59 around preparation of bylaw number 30. So if there's specific feedback that council would like incorporated in relation to language in the bylaw for staff to consider, that would be helpful as far as obtaining other grant opportunities before we explore other aspects of the program. Staff are well versed on that component.
Okay.
I think with whatever, with number 4, we need to put a cap on income for, like was said, for people applying, because I know somebody who's quite well off, and if they can get a well loan for 2%, they're going to do it, and they're going to laugh about it, and so I think there should be an income cap, definitely in this, so that we stop some of those those people applying, because if this had come out 4 years ago, I probably would have applied for it and laughed about it, or enjoyed it, I should say. So, so I think there should be capping on that somewhere, so that in the bylaws, so that people don't even bother applying and wasting the time of staff or whoever manages this program.
Okay. What's that, sorry?
I think, although there's a motion about the bylaw specifically, I think it would be my understanding that this will come back again after we get more clarity about like what our neighbors in MODL are doing, how they dealt with this. So I guess from my view, we wouldn't know really what those parts are until we know when you come back. So I don't know that we can do much more with that until we have clarity.
So, yes, what I'm hearing with respect to the bylaw, the draft bylaw number 30, is to investigate and incorporate a ceiling for eligibility, as well as options for loan forgiveness or deferring the extending the duration of the loan for participants who find themselves in a position of financial hardship and unable to repay the loan, as per the agreement set out. Yeah, is that okay if we just leave it like that? Okay. I'm just wondering for the community partnership well program. So a motion that we could put forward is that the Council of Region of Queens Municipality approve the implementation of community well partnerships as a pilot of 2026 with up to 2 sites to be identified and confirmed through well testing and agreement with community partners with an estimated allocation of up to $100,000. And direct staff to report back to council on site selection, partnership terms, and available grant funding from other sources prior to finalization. Councillor Carver? It's moved by Councillor Carver, seconded by Councillor Jenkins. Debate or discussion? I'm going to let in Amaro first. Yeah.
I'd just like to mention that the Seaside Center has potable water, and they have a drilled well there. So I'd just like to have those folks considered.
Yeah, I was just also going to say about community halls that when you're investigating with your grants and whatnot, that don't forget about the sustainability. Is it green sustainability?
The Sustainable Communities Challenge Fund? Yeah.
Yes,
which is in partnership with the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities.
Right.
The Sustainable Communities Challenge Fund.
And if they're nonprofit, if they're like community halls, then there's access there too.
Yep. Councillor Roy?
I'd also like to mention that West Queens has potable water, and we'd like to be considered for this too.
I just think, given how many districts we have and the need of a rural area, that 2 community wells is not going to be sufficient. And so I think the fact that we're going after this with a grant lens is we should, I think it should say up to 4 sites, to be honest, not 2, just because of how widespread we are. And if we can get grant funds to do this and do this well, why wouldn't we?
Okay, perhaps a friendly amendment then, Councillor Carver, to amend it to read the motion to stay at $100,000, but up to 4 community wells. And the second, Councilor Jenkins, you okay with that? All right, let's make a friendly amendment to the motion. Further debate or discussion? Well, I think your expectation is that we spend $100,000 and find the other money through the grants. Isn't that right, Deputy Mayor? No. Any further debate or discussion before I call the question? All those in favor? Carried. Yeah, so 3. So should we get a motion on 3 on the well loan program now, or wait until staff come back, just procedurally? Do we require a motion on the well loan program, or can we just await further indications from staff with respect to the 2 items that we identified as interested in exploring for inclusion?
I think we can go with just the direction you've given. I just wanted to ask Deputy Mayor if you wanted the 5 and 10 years in there as well.
So, yeah, that was my understanding. Like, it's my understanding the bylaw will come back and we'll have, some context from MODL. And maybe that's how MODL does it. Maybe they don't have an income threshold at all. If you don't consider the income, they expect it to be paid back in a quicker time frame. I don't know. But I'm just wondering if we don't have an actual motion to approve the implementation of a well loan program or explore, maybe it needs to be amended to say explore, how are we going to tie that to grant funds? Because that well loan program needs to have more than $100,000 in it. So I'm just concerned that gets missed. We need to package that into our grant application. So I don't know what the suggestions from staff are. Maybe all the other parts aren't contingent on this. Maybe there's a motion that council explore the implementation of the well loan program with an initial allocation of $100,000 and see what we can kind of leverage from a grant. I don't know if that works, or if you have other suggestions, I would certainly welcome them.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. If you want to make that motion, I think really reading the suggested motion, it doesn't detract from our ability to pursue what we're discussing in terms of what we want included in bylaw 30, really.
So are you saying the whole motion needs to be read, number 3? Or my shortened version?
Whichever motion you'd like to make.
Well, I'm just wondering from staff's perspective, what will cover.
I think if you're going to make the motion, you should make the whole motion, because if you look at the second part of it, it's to explore the partnership with Clean. So then staff will have that direction and they can start that work as well.
I don't see anything included in the entirety of the motion that is problematic, given that is misaligned with what we've had, the discussion we've had today.
Okay, but ended at Clean Foundation in 2026?
Correct.
And not continue?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I move that council approve the implementation of the well loan program with an initial allocation of $100,000 and direct staff to, 1, prepare for council's consideration and first reading bylaw number 30, a bylaw respecting potable rural water supply upgrade lending program, and explore partnership opportunities for the facilitation of the well loan program with Clean Foundation in 2026.
Is there a second to the motion? Seconded by Councillor Roy. Debate or discussion? Further debate or discussion? We've had some good discussion on it to this point. Anything else before I call the question? I'll call it then. All those in favor? That's carried. Thanks very much to both of you for your good work on that. And thanks, council, for a good discussion. I know that there is an interest for us to make sure that we have some good solutions and programs in place for. Seems kind of wild to think that there's a drought coming, given the amount of rainfall we've had recently, but that's what the meteorologists are saying. All right, so the last item we have for staff reports is just the updated council implementation report. Any questions, clarifications on the council implementation report at this time, council? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if there's any further update regarding, I'm just trying to find the page, bear with me, but it's the College Street pedestrian concerns. My gosh, where did it go?
Yeah, I saw it.
Our clerk is already on it.
Yes, I was ready for you, Deputy Mayor. So yes, there is. There will be a report coming on June 9th.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. A report coming on options to improve pedestrian safety on College. Is that right? Thank you. Any other questions on the implementation report, Council? Greatly appreciate this monthly implementation report. Helps us keep our thumb on the pulse of what's going on. Okay. Pardon? We can receive it for information if you'd so like to, yeah. Okay, let's do it.
I would like to make the motion that council receive the report titled Council Implementation Report for Information.
Spicy motion by Councillor Jenkins. Is there a second? Seconded by Councillor Carver. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thanks, Councillor Jenkins. It's better for our minutes, so I appreciate that procedurally. Thank you. Okay. So, break? Well, we have very little to do before we go in camera, so if we could just push through. Okay. So we don't have any bylaws or policies today, no correspondence for action. Correspondence for information, we did receive correspondence for information from the VON regarding the VON week. And we will be celebrating the VON. So just this year's VON week is May 17th to 23rd. We will be raising the VON flag at Town Hall. So anybody who wants to come out to observe the VON flag at Town Hall. That'll be going up starting on the week of the 17th. It might be the 18th, Monday the 18th, by the time the flag gets up. So thanks for the message from Kathy Thomas. Any? Oh, 18th's the holiday. Oh, yes, it is. It's the long weekend. Okay, it's going to be the Tuesday. It's going to go up on the Friday. So it will be flying by the 15th on our special purpose flagpole, which is in front of the Town Hall Arts and Cultural Center, or known as the Astor Theater. So, okay, anything on that? Okay, I'm gonna do my mayor's report, if you bear with me, council. And it was a busy little stint here, so. Just want to give a little update. So April 29th to May 1st, I attended the NSFM conference, as did the Deputy Mayor, CAO, and Deputy CAO. I thought it was the best fall conference, spring conference that I've been to. What season are we in here? Best spring conference of the NSFM, I think. I made some new and strengthened some existing connections with leaders from other municipal units and provincial government connections as well. I connected with Mayor Zebian from West Hants Regional Municipality, which is our best sort of closest comparable municipal jurisdiction. And I'll be having some more follow-up conversations with him as we discuss our respective operations and what we can learn from one another, because we are quite similar in many ways. And sort of how our local experiences differ. It was also good to get FaceTime with provincial ministers, deputy ministers, assistant deputy ministers, to help us understand their world that they're working in, what pressures they're experiencing, and just establish that rapport, which I think is really important when we're looking to advocate for things at the local level or secure information or ask for support, to have some of those existing relationships. And there were lots of those folks in the room throughout the conference. We're also exposed to some specific examples of how other municipalities are making use of the Clean Foundations Community Climate Capacity Program and the Sustainable Communities Challenge Fund, which Councillor Wenzel had spoken about at the last meeting of council, and flagging some of the really neat programs that some of the municipal units throughout Nova Scotia have advanced making use of those funds, and we've also heard today the expectation and opportunities to be drawing in and making use of those funds. And then also there was a really interesting presentation on dark skies, so how to maintain dark skies in terms of standards and the type of lighting and approaches to lighting, and then how to market dark skies as a draw-in for tourism. Go ahead, Councillor Jenkins. So yeah, so I thought it was a good it was time well spent heading down to Yarmouth for the conference, and thanks to Yarmouth for being such gracious hosts. On May 4th, we as a council had an initial sort of exploratory workshop, which you might have heard some mention of too, around potential scenarios and considerations for how ratepayers from one district to the next could be impacted as we look at tax reform. So the current approach to the area rates and the tax system that we have hasn't changed since 1996 after amalgamation. So we do feel it's appropriate to conduct a review and determine if adjustments are warranted. And as that review takes shape more formally, and we have a sense of what it looks like, we will be bringing that forward to a public meeting, even if it is just to maintain the status quo, but just to give members of the public a sense of what we looked at and what some of our observations or conclusions we made therein. On May 5th, I had the opportunity to meet with representatives of a cross-departmental provincial working group on response to drought and water insecurity. I contributed my perspectives on how drought and water security issues impacts Queens and how we're responding and what further support we need. Obviously, we heard a lot more about what shape our response may take. There is no clear timeline from the province on when we'll hear back and a response. They did say that they're not intending to wait until next year, that there should be some form of a response, a solution, a program of some sort coming from the province. I did articulate that would be nice to have prior to our budgeting process as we try to figure out what our response locally is going to be. We do know that through, and I think Councillor Fancy, you had mentioned this, emergency management is not going to be providing bottled water vouchers this year, and so that will leave a gap for some vulnerable folks. And so more to come on that, hoping to hear more from those folks as that takes shape. On May 6th, Councillor Fancy and I attended the South Shore Housing Action Coalition meeting, also known as SHAC. They discussed access to affordable rental units, which continues to be a concern all along the South Shore. It's one of the major issues facing residents on the South Shore as it relates to housing insecurity. We also heard a lot from representatives from the South Shore Open Doors Association, or SODA, and they are taking strides to establish a stronger presence and establish some housing here in Queens, which is promising to hear, because SODA do great work, but have a limited impact in Queens. And I have to applaud the new executive director there, who is taking it upon themselves to, she's taken up that challenge to say, well, we need to have, we're mandated to serve Queens. We need to have more of a presence in Queens. On May 9th, we had our Safe and Ready Emergency Preparedness event in the parking lot by the skate park and the splash pad, and it was very well done, very well attended, received really good feedback from participating organizations as well as residents who went over there. I heard a lot, people had fun, but they also learned something new. And so thanks to everyone, all the staff who supported that, all of the organizations who participated, and thanks to Minister Maslin, who tried to get me wet with the fire hose, but inevitably could not. So May 11th, I was joined by Deputy Mayor Charlton, our CAO, and DISO yesterday. We attended the Queens Lunenburg Collaborative Municipal Table, where we discussed, one of the major discussion points was the regional economic development strategy, which we all co-funded, us and then 4 of the municipal units. Chester opted out, and then the province, to bring in some consultants to look at what a regional economic development strategy could look like. As part of that assessment, those consultants spoke to the individual municipal units, and I think had a hard time finding kind of a cohesive sort of what this looks like, where there's alignment between the different units. And so they are organizing a session on June 15th, which will bring all 5 municipal units, 4 from Lunenburg County and us, to the table, where we can try to identify where there is shared interests, where there is a line, where there's a common goal from a regional perspective, and as it relates to economic development. One thing that I really heard that resonated was that our workforce development, attraction, retention, that we have, there's a lot of interconnectivity. A lot of people live in Queens, work in Bridgewater, live in Modal, work in Mahone Bay, what have you, so that there's a lot of interconnectivity. And from a regional perspective, something that we could benefit from is a more deliberate approach to what our labor force capacity looks like now and is going to look like into the future, and what we can do as municipal units to ensure that we have a labor force that's going to meet the needs of future economic activity in the region. More to come on that. And then lastly, yesterday I attended the launch meeting of the Nova Scotia Municipal Joint Rural Roads Committee. So I am one of 4 voting members on that working group, which will basically provide recommendations to the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities and the province to help inform the future approach for cost sharing, managing, maintaining rural roads across the province. This is something I'm passionate about. We have many G, H, I, and J class classified roads in Queens County, many of which have fallen into disrepair. So these are all the roads that aren't numbered roads. So not the 208, not the 210, not the 8, not the 103, all the unnumbered roads of kind of an urban nature that aren't private roads. Within Queens County, they would all fall as either a G, H, I, or J classification. And we all know that the $2 million combined program, $1 million from the province, $1 million from the municipalities for J-class roads, is not working, is not sufficient. I learned actually that program, like 30 years ago, was supposed to be a 3-year transition funding program to convert, to pave gravel roads that were in good shape. And it just kept, it's just been kicked the can down the road. It wasn't indexed, so that money has never been adjusted. And we all know that $2 million program in 1996 versus a $2 million program now is completely different in terms of what you get for the bang for your buck. The province, the provincial stakeholders who are on the call from Public Works and from Municipal Affairs are all they're seemingly looking for a solution. They understand that the current program doesn't make sense. They understand that municipalities are and our residents don't have good roads, and so there's some commitment to trying to find a solution for this moving forward in terms of what that looks like from a service agreement between the municipalities and the province. Well, that's it for. It was a busy, like I say, it was a busy couple weeks, but I'm glad to be on that Rural Roads committee. It's going to be moving fast. We're planning to have a report wrapped up by end of August going forward. So it's going to be, it's going to be some quick, intense work on that. Go ahead, Councillor Fancy.
Also, too, you attended there Friday night, the Art of Resilience.
Oh, yes, I did. Thank you. I did a lot. Yes, I was. Thank you, Wanda. I was dancing on Saturday. Dancing on Saturday, but thank you. I provided remarks on the Friday night for the Art of Resilience launch event, and so I would really encourage. So that's in support of the So Short Chronic Pain Association, and for the month long, and this was supported through the Community Investment Fund. There's an artist residency, and it's art that was created by chronic pain sufferers, and some of it is incredible. I never want to buy art, and there's one piece that I really want to buy down there. So I'd encourage folks to go and check it out. The art is being displayed throughout the Astor Theater and is available for purchase, or if you don't want to buy a piece of art, you can also make a donation to the Chronic Pain Association and the important work that they're doing. So thank you. Councillor Fancy, I was sure that I missed something. Go ahead, Councillor Mero.
I'd just like to put a shout out there too, that the Imagination Library at Queens County is
Yeah.
now underway.
Right.
Registration is happening. It's for children under 5 years of age, and it's a free book every month, and it's sent directly in the mail to the children. So just like to mention that. Thank you.
An incredible program. Anyone else want to do any shout-outs? Go ahead there, Deputy Mayor.
I just want to piggyback off that Imagination Library because not Director Vino, but Joanne Vino brought that forward. And speaking with her at the emergency event on Saturday, said there's already over 150 kids, but really want to push to get more kids. So if everyone can just kind of share that with their different connections and groups, would love to see that number increase.
Great. Anything else, council? Okay, I will look for a motion to move in camera. Moved by Councilor Mero, seconded by Councilor Carver. It will do so now. Thank you.